Dude, what? Windows just installed NVIDIA control panel automatically for some fucking reason on my computer. I have no idea why. And it fucking reset my whole desktop. Based. Thank you. Thank you, Microsoft. Hold on.
This is not a good argument for a debate, but imagine having to execute such a complex project plan that is satisfying or triggering all coincidences. If someone would want to manage a project like this, they wouldn't dare to introduce so many variables. Have you checked out the Bored Ape Nazi/alt-right symbolism in Cypher Deep Dive Filling did?
Fuck me. Chill. Give me like 2 minutes for everybody to reconnect. Mr. Beast just released a video about surviving a plane crash. Wait, seriously? Somebody in YouTube chat said, a serious crime can be solved by a series of coincidences. Detectives literally use coincidences to solve crimes. I think Destiny ignores coincidences. I don't ignore a coincidence. A coincidence is a basis for further investigation. That's what it is. It's not evidence in and of itself. So while you are correctly saying that some crimes have been solved by coincidences, which is true, there have also been innocent people indicted and convicted on coincidences that ends up not being true. Do you understand the difference, right? Like, coincidences are just a basis for which you begin investigating. That's it. That's not in and of itself evidence or proof of something. It's just a basis to begin investigating.
Sure. Why keep DGG in sub-only mode when you are going to argue with oxygen thieves in YouTube chat anyway?
True. Destiny, I hate to say it, but you're in the wrong here. What did I just say that was in the wrong? This is... What part of that could possibly be controversial? Could you not say you do the same through the Shkreli situation? You do not have concrete proof that he faked the situation, but a series of coincidences which you refuse to explain with incompetence. I never said 100% that Shkreli did it. I just said it looked really, really, really bad, which it did. But the difference is there was no proof on one side or the other, really, for what happened. I just said it looked really bad. But even before I talked to Shkreli, I said as much. Yeah, it is possible that he was severely incompetent. That's possible. But, like, I mean, I don't know one way or another. And the other story is, like, just as plausible. Are you not going back on your word or not debating conspiracy theories with Ryan Dawson? So why are you doing this? I don't know, because Tico and Fuentes brought it up, and the 9/11 shit gets brought up quite a bit, so I figure why not look into it? But yeah, I didn't know what the conspiracies of today looked like regarding it. Before, it was more concrete stuff, but it seems like now it's just going to all be like, well, isn't this kind of weird? And it's like, okay. Okay, we're finishing this. I think enough people are back.
No, you guys said that their navigation. Okay, how much bigger? 95 times bigger? I don't know, man. I mean, government agencies are powerful, but they're not God. Then again, they are NASA. Maybe they did have some special way to overcrank video in 1969 for an hour and a half. Maybe they had some top secret high-speed electronics that the rest of the world never knew about. Oh, wait a minute. No, you guys said that their navigation computers were too slow. I guess we can't have it both ways. I mean, it can't be fast and slow at the same time, right? Wouldn't it be easier to shoot this on film? I mean, in 1969, we already knew how to overcrank film. For Apollo 11, we only need to shoot 30 FPS and play it back at 10. Okay, let's try that. I'd recommend you shoot on 35 millimeter to minimize the film grain. That's what Kubrick would have done. Now let's see, normal 35 millimeter runs at 90 feet per minute, but since we're shooting at 30 FPS, that'll be 112.5 feet per minute. We need 47 minutes of original film, so that's about 5,300 feet. And of course, there's no such thing as a film magazine that big. Volkswagen? But if you shoot 1,000-foot loads, that's about that big, then you can do it in 5 mags. Wait, I can do this. You don't want to see the splice marks where you put the reels together, because then everybody would know it was a fake. And remember, we're shooting for TV, so it's 1:33 aspect ratio and not 1:85. So that means you have to do A and B rolls. You have to cut the negative into A and B rolls and print them onto a 5,300-foot fine-grained interpositive, then cut an answer print in the film lab. And when you're done, make sure everybody that works in the film lab dies mysteriously in a car crash. Now you just need to find a custom-designed telecine that can transfer your 5,300-foot answer print to video at 10 frames per second, pin registered, of course. How hard can that be? Of course, you need to be absolutely certain that in all that splicing and printing and transferring, none of the most common film artifacts have gotten onto your giant print. No base scratches, no emulsion flakes, no gate weave, no grain, and not one single fleck of dust, because any one of those things will instantly betray that this is a hoax. Okay, so you do that, and then you do it again for 5 more lunar missions. Only those later missions, you have to play back at 30 FPS, meaning you have to shoot at like 60 FPS, twice the torque, twice as many splices to keep clean, twice as much of a chance that the film's going to break in the camera. You think maybe it would be easier to just go to the moon? I don't really know if that's possible. Like I said, I wasn't on the moon in 1969, and neither were you. I can tell you that in 1969, it was not possible, technically, to fake what we saw on TV. Sorry, Kubrick or no Kubrick. Why does any of this matter? Well, my concern is with the ultimate fate of knowing, of seeing the difference between what you can know and what you wish for. Because that's what puts the sapiens in Homo sapiens. Without that, you're just another homo.
Not
the
cool.
Urge to believe drives people to trade in part of their soul in exchange for the comfort of being a rebel. Okay. But that step from knowing that you've been lied to believing that everything else is a lie is a big step. Once you're forced to hypothesize whole new technologies to keep your conspiracy possible, then you've stepped over into the realm of magic. It demands a deep and abiding faith in things you can never know. It's like you need to cling to your belief system with all your might against the overwhelming evidence of your own rational mind, and some people do. What's dangerous about that is that it blinds you to the real conspiracies that authorities are perpetrating on you right now.
Like 9/11.
As we speak. things that are a lot more important than whether some guys went to the moon. I'm not America, but if I were, I would much rather have you be questioning Apollo 11 and not questioning the Patriot Act, the Iraq War, the financial industry bailouts, and the right to indefinite military detention without charge.
He was so close. He was so close! And he didn't get it.
Those things are real. Thank you for watching. Excellent. My check came from NASA.
Okay, there's your moon landing. Updated. Hold on. I'm changing my... Hold on. God damn it. Who is it?
Okay. That guy's definitely a truther, first of all. But
He probably is, actually, unironically.
I still think they could have faked the first one. They don't have to fake every single one.
They would have faked just the first moon landing. The rest were real. Okay, well, listen,
Not
hey.
the whole landing. Okay, just the footage.
Sure, fine. You know
Right?
what? If I pulled you over on that much, I'm content with that progress. Okay, I'm content with that. Fine, sure.
Yeah, but that's what. Yeah, okay, but that's. I was saying that to make the point that like on the 9/11 shit, it doesn't have to be some crazy grand like whatever the fuck. I think that there's obviously like a lot of like missing information. Like maybe there's going to be some declassified documents like in fucking 20 more years or some shit of whatever the fuck, something that can explain all these random like coincidences, I guess.
Well, but sometimes like coincidences just happen and there's no explanation, right? So how could you possibly?
But some of them are just like super sus. Like the whole Silverstein guy that bought the buildings. Like it says they frame it like he bought it 6 weeks before, and I understand they were probably working that deal out for however fucking long, and 6 weeks before is probably when the deal was like finalized. Okay, so it's probably like bad framing to say like he bought it 6 weeks before. Okay, sure, but then he took out like a insurance claim that covers acts of terrorism, and then like the buildings had like apparently they were like all insulated with like asbestos, and asbestos they had just passed whatever the fuck like a year before on all the buildings in I think New York. A bunch of them had to be demolished because like you can't have or like replaced the insulation because of like asbestos or some shit because it's a danger to people.
Okay,
so it was like,
but like here,
to re-insulate to do away with like all the asbestos flooring or the whatever the fuck it was, asbestos roof tiles and shit like that would have cost like an inordinate amount of money, like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to replace or some shit like that. So I guess the claim is gonna be that like it was like a mutually beneficial for, I don't know, I guess him to be involved somehow with that. So somehow he was like, yeah, go ahead and attack my buildings I just bought. I can take out my insurance claim.
Okay, hold on.
For like
There's
$5 billion.
So here's like the issue. If you're approaching this, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, if you're approaching this in good faith, here's the thing. Okay, Two things. One, do you have any idea how common terrorism insurance was at the time?
No.
Okay, if 95% of buildings in New York had terrorism insurance, then this claim means nothing, right? Because maybe that's just really common. Or two, how many other buildings got terrorism insurance after being involved in a terrorist attack? Because the World Trade Center had already been bombed one time significantly, right?
Yeah.
So is it really that crazy that there was a 100-foot hole in that garage floor from the urea nitrate, whatever fucking bomb that they had done in the first World Trade?
Wait, was it actually the exact same building?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, what was it? The 1993 bombing or some shit?
Yeah, it was the World Trade Centers. Yeah, the park. It was the parking garage. Yeah, so maybe the insurance isn't that crazy. And then in terms of like paying a lot of money to insulate it with asbestos and stuff, I mean, they were the World Trade Centers. Those buildings generated a lot of money. There's a reason why they targeted those buildings. If anybody in all of New York City had the money to modernize their shit, wouldn't it have probably been the World Trade Centers? Like,
yeah, I guess, yeah, because I mean the purchase was like 2 point something billion or some shit like that. Or 2.3.
Real quick, person who's talking to Destiny, can you please introduce yourself so people know that it's not me? It's not Wicked Supreme. This is not me.
Supreme, okay, it is Supreme.
It's American Nacho, guys. Okay.
Keep yelling at Supreme, okay?
Okay. All right. I love you, buddy. Be careful, okay?
Okay, yep.
Bye. Okay, hold on. I'm doing a, Oh! I'm sorry. People... I have a friend that says it's an Asian accent. That's not an Asian accent that I'm doing. I'm actually offended that you would think Asians sound like that. That's just some noises that I make. I don't know why people say... That's just not true. It's hateful, actually. It's not. It has nothing to do with Asian people, okay? It's from Mr. Mooten. It's my Jar Jar Binks accent. Okay. I am, okay, so I'm thinking of changing my overlay donos. Hold on. Go away, Destiny. Do you think that, like, do you think these look better? I like that fresh and fit shit. It looked good. I think the corners need to be rounded some because I think the text is really aggressive. Probably need some level of transparency as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, some feedback. Some transparency in the boxes. Rounded / softer corners so it's not as harsh. Maybe 20 to 30% reduction in size. More friendly font. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know which one. Okay. Also, maybe longer time, question mark. Not sure if the time they say on screen is accurate for this demo. Okay, boom. Time is only for demo. Okay, gotcha. All right. What is this? World Trade Center? I don't know what this is. Okay.
Cockpit voice recording will console them in any way. At the end of the day, the only sound bites from the alleged hijackers we ever heard are a couple of clips recorded by air traffic controllers on the ground as the terrorists apparently punched the wrong keys talking to their passengers.
Buddy, move, please. Going back to the airport. Don't try to make any stupid moves.
Curiously, the hijacker from another flight made the exact same mistake.
Hi, the captain. I would like to remain seated. We're all aboard and are going to back to the airport and hand over demand. So please remain quiet.
But these recordings could have been transmitted by anyone and from anywhere. They don't prove that the terrorists were actually aboard the planes. In fact, the opposite suspicion arises in this case. Just as the Portland images seem to be the perfect substitute for the complete lack of images of the 19 terrorists at the 3 airports, these short sound bites, apparently generated by mistake, seem to be the perfect substitute for the complete lack of conversations from the 4 cockpit voice recorders.
Really, though?
The situation becomes even more implausible if we look at the actual flight data recorders, the devices that store the technical information from the plane during the flight. For the 2 airplanes that hit the towers, again, we are told that the flight data recorders were never found. In the months following the destruction of the Twin Towers, every ounce of rubble that left Ground Zero was meticulously combed through in the effort to recover every possible human remain.
That's when we decided the very least that we can do. If we can't bring them home to their families alive, then we'll stick it out and bring them home to their families. There wasn't a piece of rubble that left that pit that wasn't gone over with a fine-tooth comb.
This practice went on until the end of the removal operations.
The big pile that you see in the background there is what remains of one of the towers. A tractor basically comes in, takes a shovel full of it, and then he feathers it out across the field out there. The guys take rakes, and they rake through it. It's very tedious, but we find bones constantly.
As if that weren't enough, the same search was repeated at the Fresh Kills landfill in New Jersey.
Every single piece of debris, having already been combed through at Ground Zero, went through 3 more passes under the careful eyes of officers and agents of the FBI and the NYPD.
Yet we are asked to believe that not 1, but 4 bright orange, practically indestructible voice and data recorders eluded a search so meticulous that it was able to recover dozens of watches, banknotes, personal documents, and even buckets of coins. For the other 2 flights, the one that hit the Pentagon and the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, the flight data recorders were found, we were told, and were in good condition. It's from these 2 black boxes that the animations depicting the full flight of American 77 and United 93 were extracted. These 2 black boxes, however, pose a big problem. Every flight data recorder carries a metal plaque indicating the exact model and serial number of that device. This allows a flight data recorder to always be matched to the plane it was mounted on, while providing some important technical information. As explained by the NTSB, the serial number is used to identify when a recorder manufacturer switched from a certain memory configuration to another. This information is necessary to perform the correct recovery of the data. In virtually every accident report filed by the NTSB in the last 20 years, both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder's serial numbers are listed. But in the reports from Flight 77 and Flight 93, for some reason, they are not. An independent researcher has filed several Freedom of Information Act requests with the NTSB, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the FBI, requesting information on the missing serial numbers, but his requests were always denied. As no one has ever released the serial numbers of the 2 flight data recorders, it's impossible to know whether they came from Flight 77 and Flight 93, or from a totally different source. All in all, we have this paradoxical situation where the contents of 6 black boxes out of 8 were never released, while the other 2 cannot be verified as genuine both in origin and content. As far as we know, the 4 airplanes that crashed on September 11 could have been totally different machines from those that left the airports earlier that morning. The obvious inability by these amateurs to fly the 4 airplanes in the way they were flown, and the total lack of proof that they were even aboard those planes, poses a serious question. If not them, then who was piloting the planes? One thing everyone can agree on is that no professional pilot in the world would ever crash his own plane into a highly populated target like the Pentagon or the Twin Towers in New York. Even at gunpoint, once he knew his plane was doomed, at the last minute he would steer it away from a populated target or plunge it directly into the sea.
I don't believe any airline pilot would intentionally fly into the World Trade Center, even with a gun at his head.
It is inconceivable to me that any airline pilot would allow anyone to force him to fly into an inhabited building. I cannot imagine how any pilot could be conscious or capable of doing anything to control that airplane at the time that it was directed at one of these buildings.
But then, who was in the cockpits? What may seem as a far-fetched possibility was actually suggested by TV reporters less than 10 minutes after the impact on the second tower.
That is a very large aircraft. Would be enormously significant if someone was able in some way to get their hands on a 727 or a similar sized commercial aircraft and then crash it in.
Ollie?
Jim, what you're saying could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot. Now that is a possibility as well.
One fact that seems to support this possibility are the exceptional speeds these airplanes were able to achieve at low altitudes, near sea level. As we know, a person can easily run at top speed through normal air, but he cannot do the same in a much thicker medium like water. If he were to be pushed at the same speeds in the thicker fluid, he would probably lose his arms and legs due to the excessive resistance he encounters. The same thing can happen to airplanes if they are pushed beyond their design structural limits. At 30,000 feet, the air is very thin, and the airplane can easily travel beyond 500 miles an hour without encountering much resistance. As soon as it starts descending, however, the atmosphere gets thicker and thicker, and the plane needs to reduce the speed accordingly in order to preserve its structural integrity. Below 10,000 feet in altitude, speeds around 250 miles per hour are recommended. In fact, each airplane has a specific maximum operating velocity called VMO, which should never be exceeded at low altitudes. Never means never for a reason. Should the VMO be exceeded, a phenomenon called flutter can occur, which can quickly cause irreversible damage. The flutter phenomenon can affect any kind of airplane, from large military bombers to small single-engine airplanes. Once the VMO is exceeded, not only are the wings and the ailerons at risk, but also the fuselage begins suffering from the air pressure caused by the speed. This is what happened to an Air China 747, which exceeded the maximum operating speed, or VMO, in the desperate effort to recover from an engine failure.
For the first time, Captain Ho takes manual control of the plane.
Airspeed 270, 280.
The plane is about to exceed its maximum speed.
Approaching VMO.
The stress of the dive tears the landing gear doors off the plane.
We pass VMO. Emergency. Emergency.
Luckily, the pilots were able to regain control of the plane and perform an emergency landing. The damage caused by the excess velocity was visible all over the plane. The maximum operating speed for a 767, two of the 4 hijacked airplanes, is 414 miles per hour. For the other 2 airplanes, the 757s, the VMO is even less, 402 miles per hour. Yet on 9/11, all 4 airplanes were flown at speeds close to or beyond 500 miles per hour near sea level without suffering any visible structural damage. While
Is it true that so firstly, was there true that there were no structural damage at all? I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe they'll get into that. But 2, though my guess is going to be those VMOs are going to be set at the bottom of your limits for what the airplane can safely tolerate. It's not like if you go 405 miles per hour, your airplane's going to explode and fall apart. Again, like the safety thresholds on commercial planes are unfucking believable. Not to say that it could go like 1,000 miles per hour at no risk. And I'm sure that traveling past your VMO by 100 or 150 miles per hour for periods of time, especially below 35,000 feet, is probably really bad. But like, if I had to guess without knowing anything, I'm sure most commercial airlines could probably exceed this VMO quite significantly at lower altitudes, assuming they're not doing crazy maneuvers, and still like maintain some amount of structural integrity, right? It's not going to be like you exceed your VMO and you crash immediately. It would be interesting, and maybe they'll do this in a few minutes, to have like some sort of engineering report on like, if a plane exceeds this speed at this whatever, then this is liable to happen. But we're going to need...
while remaining perfectly under control all the way into their targets.
How do they know how fast they were going at point of impact? Was someone pointing a speedometer at the plane? I think there are ways you can calculate it, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think all of these planes were in excess of 500 miles per hour on impact. That was, I believe so. Classic aircraft test. I don't know what this is supposed to be for, but... A plane that exceeds the VMO would have to have many, many, many structural checks done afterwards. The likelihood of damage would be low until they're going crazy with the VMO. Maybe, well, but what does crazy mean? It depends, right? Yeah, I don't know. They said irreversible structural damage, which could mean that the plane could still work, but no one would want to fly it. Well, no, generally, if you exceed the VMO on a plane too much, I think they just trash them. Like even F-16s and stuff, like fighter jets will have VMOs where if you fly those planes in certain ways beyond their specifications, I think once you ground the plane, I don't think you fly it again because it's considered like they'll do investigations, but it can be there can be so much structural damage that it's just not safe to do it if you exceed the tolerances of the plane. Be destroyed. But the fighter planes are probably their VMOs and shit are gonna be set much closer to the true maxes than what like a commercial airliner would be. That'd be my guess.
The engineers needed to know if the 777...
Oh, sorry. Flight 11 was going 465 miles per hour, not 500 miles per hour. My bad. Oh, and Flight 11 was the first one that hit. Okay. I'm confused. Planes are required to be 460 to 575 miles per hour just to take off. Is that true? Are planes really going that fast at takeoff? What speed 747 needs to be to take off? A Boeing 747 needs to be going 184 miles per hour to take off. I feel like I've done probably hundreds of flights in my life at this point. I don't think I've ever been going 500 miles per hour on ground. But oh, the chatter might be thinking kilometers per hour, maybe. But even that, he was still pretty high. Concorde's takeoff speed was 250 miles per hour. Okay, gotcha.
Wings could survive the strongest forces that turbulence or bad handling could produce. They were also interested in whether the same wing design could be used on future, heavier versions of the plane. It would be a simple question to answer, using a plane specially built for the purpose. They would just attach strong cables to the wings and pull upwards until they broke. As the test progressed, the force on the wings became so strong it caused ripples in the fuselage. The engineers hoped that the wing would withstand 150% of the strongest forces it would ever meet in flight. They predicted a wing deflection of about 24 feet before the break.
Attention, we're now holding at 120% design limit load. We'll again make a loads check. It should be a short hold here.
As the tension in the wing increased, the crowd of observers, including many of the people who had lived with the plane for more than 4 years, fell quiet.
Booking is 15 and 75 seconds. Starting the ramp now. May I have attention, we're now loading to 130% of design limit load. The ramp rate is again 75 seconds.
Although he was no longer the leader of the team, Alan Mullally was also there to watch.
So this is showing the, I guess for this test on this wing, I don't know if this is a point of reference for any other planes, but this exceeded 154% of its max, at 154% of the designed limit load before it broke. So I don't know. I'm just saying that like whatever the max rated thing on an airplane is, usually they can go pretty far beyond that because they're engineered to be incredibly safe, but whatever.
American 11 hit high up in the North Tower, around the 93rd floor, going a pretty astonishing rate of speed, almost 500 miles an hour.
Here comes a very large target, descending rapidly, very fast.
Diving very steeply and very fast.
He's really moving. He was moving fast.
United Flight 175, streaking through the skies over New York at more than 600 miles an hour, barely missed colliding with another commercial flight.
The back of my neck stands up when we talk about the hijacking. We watched the speed, very high rate of speed. I believe it was about 600 knots southbound, which was extremely unusual for an air carrier.
According to the NTSB, during the descent from 12,000 to 6,000 feet, the aircraft ground speed remained between 500 and 520 knots. It then impacted World Trade Center Tower 2 at approximately 510 knots ground speed. 510 knots is 586 miles per hour. That's almost 200 miles per hour beyond the maximum operating velocity of a 767. American 77 also impressed the air traffic controllers for the speed in approaching Washington.
It was an unidentified plane to the southwest of Dulles, moving at a very high rate of speed.
I slid over to the controller on my left.
And I asked him, do you see an unidentified plane there southwest of Dulles? And his response was, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Look how fast he is.
Full throttle.
full out.
The plane made its circular descent at about 350 miles an hour. Then it kept accelerating until it crashed into the Pentagon, says the commission report, traveling at approximately 530 miles per hour. While flying at 5,000 feet of altitude, United 93 began performing a series of hard left and right maneuvers at 350 miles per hour. This was followed by a series of similar up and down maneuvers while flying near 400 miles per hour. Yet Zihad Jarrad, the amateur who wasn't allowed to fly solo on a single-engine airplane, braved the roller coaster without ever losing control. As the plane was descending, he even kept accelerating until the aircraft plowed into an empty field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 580 miles per hour. These exceptional speeds, achieved at low altitudes, have raised more than an eyebrow among aeronautical experts and pilots alike, especially those who had flown the actual airplanes involved in 9/11.
I flew the two actual aircraft which were involved in 9/11, the flight number 175 and flight 93, the 757 that allegedly went down at Shanksville, and flight 175 is the aircraft that's alleged to have hit the South Tower. I don't believe it's possible for a terrorist, a so-called terrorist, to train on a 172, then jump in the cockpit of a 757, 767 glass cockpit, and vertical navigate the aircraft, lateral navigate the aircraft, and fly the airplane at speeds exceeding its design limit speed by well over 100 knots, make high-speed, high-bank turns, pulling probably 5, 6, 7 Gs, and the aircraft would literally fall out of the sky.
If you have the flight paths for these, if you're really exceeding 7 Gs on the plane, that should be like very easy math. Like, just show us the math on that, no? Like, that should be pretty easy to calculate. Not even easy, but trivial. The MIT professor published a paper regarding the 9/11 plane impact speed. It's not that high. I don't know how credible is this paper. 7 Gs sounds fucking insane. That sounds like a lot of... But if you could calculate how many Gs, or if you have the flight path, you should be able to calculate the Gs that are being pulled. I bet there's software that does it probably automatically. Post-mortem analysis on the collapsed buildings. As is well known, the kinetic energy carried by the plane changes with the square of the velocity, while their momentum grows in proportion to the velocity. Thus, an accurate determination of the speed is an essential datum in the estimation of the dynamic effects elicited by the collision. Using various publicly available video recordings, as described in the article, been able to obtain reasonably accurate estimates of the speed of flight of the planes that collided onto the Twin Towers. I would be so surprised if an airliner could manage 7 Gs. 7 Gs in a commercial plane, that just sounds high to me, but I don't know. I mean, I could be a dumb fuck. I don't know. That sounds insanely high, though. The velocities listed in this table for the two WTC planes, World Trade Center planes, are in excellent agreement with flight data based on radar provisioned by the NTSC. The radar speeds are basically 10% larger, a difference that could easily be explained by the higher altitude at which the aircraft may have remained visible to radar, and the probable speed up caused by the descent. Indeed, during a final approach, the airplanes whose transponders have been disabled were flying as low as 1,000 feet above the ground, the height of impact, an altitude that is barely above the rooftops of the skyscrapers in Lower Manhattan, so radar is likely to have been blind to them. By contrast, the estimates given therein or herein are based on the last mile of flight prior to collision. Damn, if only Nico wasn't a fucking fraud. On the other hand, the velocity given for the plane that plunged into the Pentagon comes from information contained in the recovered flight data recorder. The flight numbers and aircraft type listed are from a report by the Washington Post, and these following. So this was one that we did get the flight data recorder from? Which ones did he say we didn't get them from? I don't remember. Planes can reach those levels of G-force without immediately removing this apart. What matters is how long that G-force would apply. Yeah, I imagine it's going to be the length of time the G-force is applied, and then the specific type of maneuver you're doing at the same time as well. Impact times and places listed records obtained with the Apollo seismic station, Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, Columbia University. The station is 34 kilometers away, and the tilts above are obstructed 6 seconds. Reported times to cover the estimated travel time of the seismic waves from the World Trade Center to Palisades? 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 I don't know. Oh, we got the record, but the serial numbers have never been released. Oh, and this goes into how they... Trying to do a Doppler effect to calculate, it feels like a pre-calc homework assignment or something. Trying to, if it's moving at this speed and you're at this distance, what is the blah blah blah? Yeah. They make you do it to get your drone and pilot's license. The planes are rated about 2 to 3 Gs, so if it has a safety factor of 3 or 4, people could maintain 7 Gs for a little bit. I wonder where they're getting their speeds from in this video. Huh.
Probably 5, 6, 7 Gs, and the aircraft would literally fall out of the sky. I couldn't do it, and I'm absolutely positive they couldn't do it.
How do you feel about United 175 reaching 510 knots?
Physically impossible. To have a clocked airspeed of 510 knots with a commercial airliner at sea level is physically impossible.
Flight 175 that hit the second tower, they said it was going at roughly 560 miles an hour at sea level.
No, that's impossible. You need so much power to push yourself through that air. So the engines have the right amount of horsepower for cruising at 30,000 feet at 500 plus miles an hour. To do that at ground level, you need 6 times that amount of power. Those engines can't put out 6 times more power. If you changed out the motors so they were motors that had 6 times the thrust, then theoretically you could, but then the structure is not strong enough. Under all circumstances, I'd say an absolute resounding no.
To me, it's impossible. Any pilot that has been in a commercial jet would probably laugh at if you said 510 knots.
No, okay, this isn't to take away anything from pilots, no offense or anything, but like when you keep saying like any pilot that's been in a jet, blah, 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 like you're not going to know the maximum tolerances of a commercial airliner. You're never, ever going to be approaching anything near what those planes can do as a responsible pilot. Like so it's kind of weird. Like it would be more satisfying to hear engineers talk about this, not pilots. Like a pilot's not going to know, like you're never going to be like, oh yeah, so one time I was flying a 747 at about 480 knots ground speed because I wanted to see like how hot I could come in before the ATCT started shouting at me. Like that, you're going to have no idea what the max time is. I'm sure you'll go through flight school and they'll tell you what your VNE is and your whatever the other number was. I'm sure you'll know that. But I think engineers here would have more input than fucking pilots on the max tolerances of their planes. Where the fuck are their high G forces supposedly coming from? I don't see any tight turns, and there's no reason to believe they were getting 7 Gs of linear. Yeah, I don't know where the 7 Gs are coming from. That's why I'm saying I need to see the flight path. If on a big bank, maybe, or on a big dive, you could. But Gs, when we're talking about Gs, you're talking about a rate of change, right? Acceleration is the rate of change between your speed at T0 and T1 or whatever, right? That you have to be increasing or decreasing, either positively or negatively accelerating to to generate G forces. You can be going 5 billion miles per hour and experience 0 Gs because you're not accelerating or decelerating. So yeah, I don't know what where is your change of speed coming from? Where that guy's saying, well, they'd have to be pulling 7 Gs. Well, show me the flight path. That's why I'm saying you should be able to calculate it. Show me the flight path and the calculation for these Gs. But yeah, I don't know. I wish they were talking to engineers on this. The pilot is a top G.
Is it possible to fly over 500 miles an hour at sea level?
No.
Oh, here's an aeronautical engineer at least. Okay, Captain Gordon Wilson.
It would be above the indicated airspeed would be greater than its maximum speed at sea level.
Even, like, say if it was even in a shallow type of dive, would it be able to?
Any airplane can be dive. Of course, then you've got the assistance of gravity, right? But there comes a point where the drag of the air overcomes the aerodynamics of the airplane.
For a final word, the same researcher has called Boeing Corporation.
It has to do with the maximum speed of a 767-200 at 700 feet altitude.
For 200?
Yeah, 767-200, yeah. Like, I had asked some people, and they assumed it would be about 250 miles an hour or something.
That sounds pretty likely because at 35,000 feet, it's 530 miles.
So there's no way that it could be going 500 miles an hour at 700 feet altitude then.
Not a chance. Not that fast.
What is the argument that they molded a plane that looked exactly like a 740? Well, the argument is that they use like a military drone or something, basically. How would you even... I wonder how you would even find information about this. What is the... I feel like this is like a Veritasium video. Given the structure of a 747 and then given like the maximum thrust you could produce, what is the theoretical max speed that you could sustain with slight gravity assistance because you're diving a little bit? I wonder what the max speed you could sustain is on that frame without suffering an immediate destruction of the frame. And then what would be physically possible? Like, do you have the delta V plus the gravity assistance to reach that speed? But I would need like, I keep saying 747s, but I don't think any of the planes were 747s. Sorry, they were like 737s or 737s or whatever the fuck they were. But I'm curious. There's so many variables here. Yeah. What is the max speed of a plane at sea level of commercial airliners? What's the says 7067? The top speed of a Boeing 747 itself is about 570 miles per hour, and this flight maxed out at 825. The difference between ground speed and air speed is also why this speed, while technically faster than the speed of sound, didn't ever go supersonic. Yeah, maybe, but keep in mind your max speed at 35,000 feet is going to be different than your max speed at sea level. One of the reasons why we travel so high at 30,000 feet is because it's more fuel efficient to do so because there's less wind resistance. You don't have to expel as much fuel to overcome air resistance and shit to maintain your speeds. The descent increases speeds. Yeah, I would have to like look at like the flight path or whatever for it. But
Can you produce any evidence that a Boeing 767 equipped with regular engines can fly for almost 2 minutes beyond 500 miles per hour in the lower strata of the atmosphere without suffering any visible structural damage?
Well, it could have suffered damage too that but that's not relevant because they're not trying to fly the plane again. It's just
hour in the lower strata of the atmosphere without suffering any visible structural damage. Can you explain how amateur pilots who had never flown a jet before in their life
Jesus Christ. This might be too complicated for me to follow, but maybe not. Can a Boeing 767-200 flight 510 knots at a height of 400 meters? 7 years and 2 months ago. The speed is secondary. What determines the physical limits of the Boeing 767 is Mach number and dynamic pressure. 510 knots at 400 meters in standard atmospheric conditions equals Mach 0.775. This is well within the limits of a Boeing 767, but at 400 meters it produces a dynamic pressure of 40,567, is that newtons per meter squared? And that is too much. The maximum dive speed of the 767 is 420 kts? I don't even know what that is. This only means that flying at 510 kts is illegal, but it is still possible. If the airplane dove down to those 400 meters of altitude, it would entirely be capable to reach this speed, but would slow down once it stops diving. Oh, knots. Duh. There are several effects which can cause a catastrophic failure when flying too fast. When the aircraft flies into a gust, the resulting load factor can overstress the structure. When the pilot commands large control inputs, he will overstress the structure, or flutter might also cause structural damage. The CIA literally hosts the book version of this documentary? Wait, why? Does the CIA just have everything? That's kind of weird. How does something get into the CIA.gov library? Controlled opposition. Remember, to experience flutter, you need to excite the motion first. Here is a good discussion of this topic. In short, flying a Boeing 767 at 400 meters at 510 knots is not recommended, but it's entirely possible and most likely even safe when done in calm air and by a calm pilot. It only won't last long because the engines will not produce enough thrust to maintain the speed. Flying this dive requires guts, but no special skills. Sounds like a shill to me. This guy said, it would in all likelihood be impossible for a large transport category jet to even reach an airspeed of 500 knots at an altitude that low. Drag increases with the square of the airspeed, and the transonic region presents some additional challenges on top of that. A 76 should have sufficient thrust to accelerate past VMO at low altitude, but VMO for a 76 is 360 knots at MSL, a long way from 500. Even if structural power plant failures due to overstress wasn't an issue, 76 would be drag limited from reaching anywhere near 500 knots in level flight, so not on a dive. With respect to failure modes, there are structural concerns, skin integrity concerns, power plant concerns, and Mach tuck. One or more of these would be encountered long before you had a chance to reach 500 knots. Bending of the airframe, control surface flutter, skin integrity, Mach tuck, the center pressure moves rearward along the wing chord when the aircraft enters the transonic regime. The exact spinning characteristics shift, differ by aircraft, Power plant failure. Reaching 500 knots would require the power plant to generate tremendous amounts of thrust, requiring a much greater displacement of air through the compressors and turbines, and a much hotter burn in the combustion chamber. They're not necessarily a failure mode, something to watch out for in fast-traveling swept-wing aircraft. Lastly, the control difficulty at such high speed would stem from the fact that control surfaces become much more effective at higher speeds. Ordinarily, this might lead to an aircraft that is responsive, bordering on twitchy, and require very light control inputs, but the story is a bit more complicated in an aircraft like a 26 due to the role played by the envelope protection software and the hydraulic actuation system. Jesus. The book version of this documentary was found on Osama bin Laden's bookshelf during the raid. Is that true? Ooh. Destiny, yes. Jeez, nice. This is in 2014. The estimates of speed for UA-175 range from 503 miles per hour to 590 miles per hour. The radar is always going to overshoot a bit. Can somebody explain why that is the case? Why is the radar overshooting the speed a bit? From 503. Oh, this is going to link me that same paper, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Jesus. I'll just throw these in here for later reference, I guess.
Could maintain full control of an airliner that has exceeded the VMO by almost 200 miles per hour? And why would some terrorists who have been lucky enough to get within reach of their target want to risk the entire operation by imposing such a stress on the airplane that it would almost...
Oh god, I just fast-forwarded way too far for no reason. Fuck!
Detailed how to replace a civil airliner with a military called with plan. What happened to the passenger? If operates a liner that has suffering any visible structural damage. Can you explain how amateur pilots who had never flown a jet before in their life could maintain full control of an airliner that has exceeded the VMO by almost 200 miles per hour? And why would some terrorists who have been lucky enough to get within reach of their target want to risk the entire operation by imposing such a stress on the airplane that it would almost certainly cause them to crash before they complete their mission? One question becomes inevitable at this point. If those were military drones and not regular airliners, what happened to the passengers? With certainty, no one can answer this question. One thing we do know, however, the CIA has been developing plans for covert operations that involve the in-flight swapping of commercial airliners with military drones since the 1960s. One such plan was called Operation Northwoods, and it detailed how to replace a civil airliner with a military drone in mid-air, unbeknownst to the air traffic controllers. After the swap, the airliner would be landed in a military base. The drone would continue to fly, appearing on radar as the original plane, and would be remotely guided all the way into the target.
Jesus.
We don't know whether this is the actual end the passengers met, but one thing we can say for sure. Those who called their relatives from their cell phones could not have placed those calls from the airplanes in flight. Minutes after the fourth plane had crashed in Pennsylvania, news was already circulating that several passengers had made calls with their cell phones from the hijacked airplanes.
We are being hijacked. We are being hijacked. Those frightening words were uttered.
Okay, I know that this was proposed, but in 2001, were we using drone technology yet to fly planes? It's possibly were. I don't remember. It's been a long while. Dad says FAA radars are basically only designed to track the beacon on the plane, not the plane itself. The beacons on the plane are turned off, and backup radars being used to track fire planes. Operation Sandstorm, when was that? Not large ones and not well. When did we start using drones warfare? November 3rd, 2002, the first recorded targeted drone strike by the CIA killed 6 targets suspected of participating in Al-Qaeda and posing U.S. security threat. So they're saying that in 2001, the United States military had the technology to remotely pilot large enough planes on a precise enough path to... It feels like it wouldn't be that complicated for non-moving targets if you were, but I just don't know the sophistication of like our... It feels like it wouldn't be that hard, even in 2000, but I don't know, I have no idea.
By a passenger aboard United Flight 93 who was able to call emergency personnel on his cell phone before the plane crashed in western Pennsylvania.
And tonight we're getting reports of cell phone calls from at least 3 of those 4 flights. On the second flight that came out of Boston, that was the second flight of the day and also went into one of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, there was a businessman who got off 2 cell phone calls to his father.
CNN commentator Barbara Olson, wife of U.S. Solicitor General Ted Olson. She reportedly called her husband twice on a mobile phone to tell him her plane was being hijacked.
The problem is that in 2001, it was practically impossible to make a call with a cell phone from an airplane at cruising altitudes. The whole idea behind cellular phones is that they use low power transmitters, both to keep the cost of the units down.
Oh, so this is, now he's stumbling into a topic that we did do a lot of research on before we hopped into the documentary. So cell phones in 2001, some of them would have been older ones that are using stronger transmitters because the FCC regulations were a bit different back then. And we do know that the air phones existed on planes that allowed them to do calls to people on the ground. That was like a pretty standard technology in commercial airliners back at the time. We know that's true.
And to preserve battery life. It is up to the receiving towers on the ground to pick up and boost their signal before they route it through the system. It is commonly thought that beyond 10,000 feet in altitude, most cell phones become useless. Passenger planes normally...
This is true today for today's cell phone tech, but for the older models back in the early 2000s when they were using different frequencies and communicating on different bands, I think the theoretical limit for these was like 5 or 6 it might have been 10 miles. It was like 55,000 feet was the theoretical limit for some of these working, basically.
Cruise at 30,000 feet and beyond. The editors of Popular Mechanics, however, maintain that cell phones do work from cruising airplanes, even at maximum altitudes.
David Dunbar.
With regard to the cell phones, we did what any reporter would do. We talked to experts in the field, and in fact cell phones do work at that altitude up to 35,000 feet and higher. And
in 2001?
In 2001, and it might be instructive for you to talk to some of the cell phone experts.
Instead of talking to experts, Japanese television decided to take matters into their own hands. In 2003, they conducted an on-camera experiment near Ontario, Canada, to verify the actual reach of cell phones from different altitudes.
The cellular phone system used in the experiment in Canada is the one used in the United States. 3 cell phones, each from different telephone companies, were used. The experiment begins at 1,000 feet.
Hello? Hello, I'm calling from cell phone A. Okay?
The results were the same with the other 2. Next, we went up to 4,000 feet. Then...
No, not on me.
Company B's phone stopped working at 4,000 feet. And when the aircraft rose to 6,000 feet, Company A's phone also became useless. At 8,000 feet, none of the 3 cell phones worked anymore.
No service on A, no service on B, no service on C.
In other words, at an altitude of 35,000 feet...
I mean, commercial airliners at the time sold airphone services in commercial flights. Like, anybody could buy and use those phones on the back of the flights. So clearly, there was technology that allowed them to make calls. I don't know if in 2003 or if in the area you're in, it's going to matter much. If there's like a higher density of towers in fucking New York where these planes were crashing or whatever. But I mean, like, the technology existed, right? Airphone was a service. It was in commercial planes. I wonder if this changes based on like the density of cell phone towers or where you're flying over, or if the type of phone that you're using changes it as well. But
cell phones would have been totally useless.
There is another problem besides altitude that makes calling from a cell phone unthinkable from a cruising airplane, and that is speed. Calling from an aircraft with a cell phone would be like calling from a car traveling at 500 miles per hour. The connection would continuously need to be transferred from one receiving station to the next, and then to the next, and again to the next. The transfer procedure between 2 receiving stations is called handoff, and it relies on continuous triangulations between the receiving towers in order to establish the exact position of the caller. As the mobile unit approaches the handoff zone, the first tower senses the weakening of the signal and prepares to transfer the call to the second. When the second...
Don't they use GSM system in that part? I don't remember what they were using back in 2001. I think they were still changing over to... They were switching over to CDMA? I don't know all of the cell phone technology. It's been a long time, and I don't know anything about cell phones back then, so...
Tower senses the signal is strong enough to take over, the handoff procedure is initiated. If everything goes well, the call is rerouted into the system by the new receiving station. But the speed by which an airplane approaches and crosses over the handoff zone is so high that the towers wouldn't have the time to complete the handoff procedure. The call would be dropped, and the person would need to dial the number from scratch. If one considers the altitude and the speed problems combined, it should be clear that the chances of having an actual conversation with a cell phone from a cruising airplane are practically nil. Even after 2001, both altitude and speed problems remain.
It also, this is also one of those things, and I'll apply my conspiracy hat, since he's applying his conspiracy hat and not giving us an actual answer. This would also be another thing where, like, let's say that it was impossible for calls to happen, and it was all faked. Why would you fake something that's impossible? Like, why would you fake something that's so clearly impossible? Like, imagine in 2001, they were like, yeah, the people mailed letters from the planes. It's like, how are you mailing a letter from a plane? What the fuck does that even mean? It's like, oh, well, they called on their cell phones. You mean, well, wait, you can't do that either. If it was the case that these were military drones and it was all fabricated, why would they fake phone calls that people should also know are impossible to do? It just seems weird. Why would you do that?
2005, the Washington Post wrote, most cell phones can't reach a station from beyond 10,000 feet. Another technical hurdle is to find a way that cell phone calls would be handed off.
Okay.
Another technical hurdle is to...
That's 2005. Cell phones can make surprising connections sometimes. I know this because I had a flight from... Where was I flying from? It was over Nevada. I was flying from Vegas to some other thing, and my shield died in Lord's Mobile. And I was somehow able to get a 4G connection in the air to reshield my Lord's Mobile base. But I think this was a lower altitude flight. I think we were flying at 20,000 or 25,000 instead of 35,000 feet. So I know it's possible because I did it before to shield in Lord's Mobile. I thought I was fucked. I realized once we'd taken off, I was like, oh my God, my shit. So I was like on the floor of the plane, like constantly refreshing my shit. And I managed to do it. It was based. But this is also 2019. I don't remember when I played Lord's Mobile, but...
Find a way that cell phone calls would be handed off from one cell tower to another on the ground when an aircraft is traveling at 500...
The floor? I don't know. I thought if I held the phone lower, I could find the cell phone tower. Listen, dude. My army, all right?
100 miles an hour. And even 10 years after 9/11, people who try to use their cell phone from cruising altitudes are bound to get the same result.
Wait.
And people who try to use their cell phone from cruising...
Did he just say cell phones?
And even 10 years after 9/11, people who try to use their cell phone from cruising altitudes are bound to get the same results. Once it became clear that the passengers could not have placed their calls from the cell phones on the airplanes, the official narrative on this issue became more and more ambiguous and non-committal. Theodore Olson, who had initially told the press he had received 2 cell phone calls from his wife Barbara, changed his story to calls made from an airphone. And by the time the 9/11 Commission published their final report, only one mention on the cell phone calls remained. Shortly thereafter, wrote the Commission, passengers and flight crew began a series of calls from GTA airphones and cellular phones. No indication on which calls were made from cell phones and which ones with airphones was given. The authorities from the Moussaoui trial also avoided being too specific on the origin of the calls. Within the official documentation, they released this flash animation, which contains all the basic information on the 4 hijacked airplanes. By clicking on any of the flights, one can view the passengers list. By clicking on the telephone icon at the bottom, the passengers who have made phone calls are highlighted. And by clicking on any of the passengers' names, the list of the calls they have made is displayed. Each of the calls lists the exact time it was placed, the duration, the initial part of the number dialed, and the name of the person receiving the call. But the number from which the phone call was placed is missing. The only information available is the location on the plane the calls were presumably made from, row 30 in this case. It's as if the authorities were trying to suggest that the calls were made from airphones without having to put it down on paper. Only in 2 cases did the authorities openly state that a cell phone was used. One is the call allegedly placed to 911 by a passenger who had locked himself in a lavatory where airphones are not available. The second is a call placed by flight attendant C.C. Lyles to her husband, who later described...
Let me get a drink real quick. Time to soy up. Wait. Jesus Christ. The maximum range of a mast, where it is not limited by interference with the mast provides, but the same considerations. In any case, limiting effectively of low power, personal cell phone to transmit back to the mast. As a rough guide based on tall masts and flat terrain, it may be possible to get between 50 and 70 kilometers, 31 and 43 miles. When the terrain is hilly, the maximum distance can vary from as little as 6 to 8 due to encroachment of intermediate objects on the wide... Who is this guy? GSM tower can replace between 3 and 80 kilometers of cabling for fixed wireless networks. In addition, some technologies such as GSM have an additional absolute maximum range of 22 miles, which is imposed by technical limitations. CDMA and IDEN have no such limit defined by timing. Oh, so if that Asian country was using GSM towers, which is what I think they said, CDMA and IDEN don't have the same restrictions? Gee, who the fuck is this guy? Sorry, random Discord dude coming through. Is that range limit given here? Depending on the terrain and other circumstances, a GSM tower can replace between 3 and 80 kilometers of cabling for fixed wireless networks. In addition, some technologies of GSM have an additional absolute max range of 35 kilometers, which is imposed by technical limitations. CDMA and IDEN have no such limit defined by timing. Oh, interesting. Oh, they were testing in Canada. Why do I keep thinking Asian? Was it text in Japanese? Am I crazy? Oh, was a Japanese news thing done in Canada? Oh, they said GSM towers though, didn't they? Or am I making that up? Hold on. Soy up.
his surprise in receiving a call from her cell phone in a television interview.
Once the phone got disconnected, then I sat up in the bed like, it was like I just woke up. I'm like, was that a real call? So I looked at the caller ID and noticed that it was a call, and it was from her cell phone. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How can she call me from on the plane from a cell phone? Because cell phones don't work on a plane. That's what I'm thinking.
As only these two phone calls were admitted by the authorities, the debunkers have universally adopted the only two cell phone calls made position.
Le telefonate non non sono state fatte con il cellulare, sono state fatte con gli earphone. In soli 2 casi è stato usato un cellulare, quindi quelle 2 telefonate brevissime, frammentarie, sono state fatte quando l'aereo era una quota perfettamente compatibile con la rete cellulare americana.
But one thing is the number of cell phone calls admitted to. Another is the number of calls that were actually made. In the days following 9/11, the FBI interviewed the various people who had received a phone call from their relatives on the planes, and their reports tell a different story. One of the reports reads, starting at approximately 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, which is 9:30 New York time, Dina Burnett received a series from 3 to 5 cellular phone calls from her husband, Thomas Burnett. Burnett was able to determine her husband was using his own cellular phone because the caller ID showed his number. Only one of the calls did not show the caller ID as she was on the line with another call. According to the official documentation, Thomas Burnett made a total of 3 calls, one at 9:30, one at 9:37, and one at 9:44. This means that at least 2 of these calls, if not all 3, were made from Burnett's cellular phone. At 9:30, the plane was flying at 32,000 feet and climbing. At 9:37, it had reached 36,000 feet and was still climbing. At 9:44, it had descended to 22,000.
Shouldn't it have been trivial? I don't know if they did this as part of the 9/11 Commission or this guy or other people or FOIA request it. Shouldn't it be trivial to get like phone logs? Well, fuck, I wonder how long these companies keep phone logs. Probably not infinitely, huh? There's probably some.
Feet, while it accelerated until reaching a ground speed of almost 400 miles per hour. None of these calls seems to have been possible with a cell phone from that airplane. According to another report, United 93 passenger Jeremy Glick saw hijackers on the plane, used a cell phone and called Makeley, his stepmother, to report the hijacking. He then asked to talk to his wife, Lisbeth.
And he was on the phone and he had told me that his plane had been hijacked.
According to the FBI, Glick's wife, Lisbeth, could not hear any unusual sounds in the background of the call, and the connection was extremely clear, as if he was calling from the next room. Cell phone communication was lost at 9:55. Glick placed the call at 9:37, which means the communication lasted uninterrupted for 18 minutes while the plane was flying between 39,000 and 10,000 feet at an average speed of almost 400 miles per hour. Only a miracle could have kept that connection open for all that time had the call truly been placed from the airplane in flight. Lauren Grancolas possessed a cellular phone and is believed to have allowed another...
Yeah, this is what I'm curious. So Apple Cider, this is what I read earlier. Fact, amps were used in 2001. Most did not use this, but some did. For those with amps devices, the calls worked. Because my understanding was that back then, cell phones that were using a little bit of the older technology would have had stronger transmitters, much stronger than the newer ones because of the bands they operated on, because they were using analog instead of digital shit or whatever the fuck that means. But I don't know enough about the technology at the time to feel like strong about that point. I think there's one thing that we read through trying to figure out if that happened, but...
passenger Honor Wainio to use the cellular phone. Wainio placed one call to her parents at 9:53 when the plane was at about 10,000 feet, traveling close to 400 miles per hour. Elsa Strong received a cell phone call from her sister, Lisa Gronlund, a passenger on United 93. Gronlund made the call to her sister at 9:46 when the plane was at 17,000 feet and traveling at almost 400 miles per hour.
I don't understand what they're actually suggesting happened. Did they fake calls from relatives? So it sounds, I don't know what the next part of it is going to go in, but they're basically, it sounds like what they're trying to say is when the planes took off, they go parked somewhere else and military drones were swapped out instead. And the military drones are what crashed into the planes. All of these phone calls, the reason why they were able to make the phone calls so crystal clear is because these people were just in another area, like sitting in a bunker somewhere, I guess before they executed them or something. And they are the ones that made the phone calls to their family pretending that the planes were getting hijacked. That's what they're suggesting here. Now, unfortunately, there's absolutely no evidence for any of this, but that's what's being suggested or implied. But
was also a passenger on United 93. Britton's live-in boyfriend received a cellular phone call from Britton during the hijacking. Britton told Fiumano, her boyfriend, that she had borrowed a cell phone from another passenger. Britton's call to Fiumano took place at 9:49 when United 93 was flying beyond 13,000 feet at a speed of 420 miles per hour. Peter Hansen, a passenger on United 175, contacted his mother on cell phone and said the flight had been hijacked. Peter's father, Lee, said that he resisted the temptation to call his son back because he didn't want to place him in more danger by having his cell phone ring on the plane. Peter Hansen called his parents twice, at 8:52 and at 9 a.m. At 8:52, the plane was at 30,000 feet and it was climbing. At 9 o'clock, it was flying at over 18,000 feet in altitude, while it accelerated towards the record-breaking speed of almost 600 miles per hour near sea level. Brian Sweeney was also a passenger on United 175. After learning of the attacks, wrote the FBI, his wife Julie Sweeney returned home to find that her husband had left a message made from his cell phone aboard the plane on their answering machine. Sweeney made the call at 8:58 in between the two Hansen calls when the plane was still at 25,000 feet in altitude. While any one of these phone calls could have momentarily been connected by a set of fortunate coincidences, it should be obvious that all these cell phone calls as a whole could not have been made from the cruising airplanes.
One thing that sucks about this is, so one, aside from not knowing any of the actual phones used or the technologies that these phones were operating on at the time, where it could have been possible, what we also don't know is we don't know how many calls failed. Because what if we found out that like these were all placed from cell phones? What if we find out that 60 more people tried to place calls but they failed because they didn't have connection, right? In that case, these wouldn't look as crazy, because right now it looks like, holy shit, 9 people tried to place calls at over 10,000 feet and somehow they all went through it. Well, what if like 80% of them failed? But we don't have that information, unfortunately. What do you know?
Question. Given the known limitations of the cellular phone system in 2001,
the only reason they swapped the plane was to exceed the speed. Why wouldn't they camouflage a proper plane and lead the passengers? I don't know. I don't think it goes that deep. I don't think that these, I don't think that this documentary is going to actually propose a theory of what happened. It's just poking holes in the original story, basically. And then it's up to you to figure out what you think happened.
can you provide any evidence that the cell phone calls made by the passengers reported by the FBI could have been made from the altitudes, at the speeds, and for the durations indicated for each of them? We do know, however, that the calls were made, as no one has ever doubted that the relatives actually received them. This opens the way to a disturbing possibility, which seems to support the in-flight swap hypothesis, that the passengers were forced to call their relatives under duress, pretending to be on the airplane, while in fact they had already been landed in some unknown location. In support of this hypothesis, we have different elements. One is the conversation passenger Todd Beamer had with a GTA airphone operator, Lisa Jefferson, during the hijack of Flight 93. It is through Lisa Jefferson that the whole world learned about the famous call to action, "Let's roll."
When he told the guys, "Are you ready?" I assumed that they were waiting on his cue. Then they responded to him, and he said, "Okay, let's roll."
The 9/11 Commission has established that the hijack took place at 9:28. Todd Beamer was connected to Lisa Jefferson at 9:43, some 15 minutes into the hijacking. The FBI report confirms that Jefferson received the call from Beamer at approximately 8:45 Central Time, which is 9:45 Eastern. But the contents of the conversation are strikingly at odds with the official narrative. According to Jefferson, Beamer called to state that the plane was about to be hijacked. He stated that 3 individuals, 2 wielding knives, the third with a bomb strapped to his waist with a red belt, were preparing to take control of the flight. Jefferson estimated that she spoke to Beamer for 7 minutes before the 2 hijackers armed with knives entered the cockpit. This places the hijacking at around 9:52, while officially it took place at 9:28. This is no small discrepancy. How could Beamer be describing events that are supposed to be happening in front of his eyes when in fact they had already happened?
Is it not possible that, where was Beamer seated? Is it not possible that it was already hijacked but he wasn't aware of it? Is that impossible to know?
happened half an hour before. How could the terrorists be preparing to take control of the flight at 9:45 when they had already been in the cockpit for more than 15 minutes?
I don't know if he's close enough to even see what's going on in the cockpit. I imagine it's possible that they could have hijacked the plane already without him having any idea whatsoever, no?
The FBI also wrote that Jefferson noted that the call had an unusually low amount of background noise, the same thing Liz Glick had noticed. Furthermore, the records show that Beamer's call lasted roughly 1 hour and that the line was left open after the crash. "We didn't lose a connection," stated Jefferson, "because there's a different sound that you use. I never lost connection. It just went silent." Jefferson stayed on the phone, stated the FBI, until she learned Flight 93 had crashed. Question: since airphones are powered by the same airplane's electrical system, how could the line have remained open for another 45 minutes? Discrepancy. How could Beamer be describing events that are supposed to be happening? Terrorists be preparing to 15 minutes. Control of the flight at 9.
Should write this down. Destiny, this is Slugsy, but the theoretical top speed of 747 given by the manufacturer is between Mach 0.82 and 0.88, which at sea level, Mach speed changes based on pressure, so this should be able to map as a speed of 646 miles per hour without even needing stored kinetic energy from the dive. I don't know where you got that from, but okay. Destiny, they're going in on Cloudflare because they host KF. Not gonna lie, I don't even know enough about them to know if this is true. Do I want to... Hold on. Fuck me, dude. I can't help myself. I can't help myself on this one. Sorry. Sorry, hold on. I'm misbehaving. Is this, if I post this, are people gonna count this as doxing? I don't know, okay. Okay, boom. Hold on, I'll be back, 1 second. Stop, stand for a hamster. Hello. Sorry. Okay.
45 when they
wait. Oh, yeah, okay.
They had already been in the cockpit for more than 15 minutes. The FBI also wrote that Jefferson noted that the call had an unusually low amount of background noise, the same thing Liz Glick had noticed. Furthermore, the records show that Beamer's call lasted roughly 1 hour and that the line was left open after the crash. We didn't lose a connection, stated Jefferson, because there's a different sound that you use. I never lost connection, it just went silent. Jefferson stayed on the phone, stated the FBI, until she learned Flight 93 had crashed. Question: since airphones are powered by the same airplane's electrical system,
I don't know how I could ever possibly begin to answer this question. I don't know the technical specifications of how these phones like close their lines, or even if that woman was correct that the line hadn't been closed, or well, I have no idea. I don't even know how I could ever begin to address this question.
How could the line have remained open for another 45 minutes after the plane had literally disintegrated to the ground in 1,000 pieces? All these discrepancies seem to suggest that Beamer was not on the plane, observing real events unfolding, but was describing an imaginary, pre-scripted situation from a different location. In support of this hypothesis, we also have the dramatic message left by flight attendant C.C. Lyles in her husband's answering machine before briefly talking to him on her cell phone. As she herself is suggesting, we should listen very carefully.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that.
We too can notice the absence of the typical background noise heard inside a plane.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know what typical background noise heard inside of a plane means. Phones, I don't know what they would have been like in 2001 because it's so long ago. But phones apply an algorithm to filter out background noise. Like you don't hear. That's why when you're listening to a cell phone call, you don't hear every single thing going on in the background. It's not like the way that phones work has never been like that ever. Especially things like drones can be easy to edit out too. That's just for a cell phone. On like a normal, I think on normal. You wouldn't call them analog phones, but on ground phones, I think you can hear background noise more because I think the microphones work a little bit differently. But on cell phones, there's a whole bunch of technology applied to filter out like random background noises. That's pretty common nowadays. It was common 10 years ago. I don't know about 20 years ago. I'm not sure. Have they always had that tech? I don't remember. I don't remember cell phones from 20 years ago. I truly don't remember.
There's 3 guys. They've hijacked the plane. I'm trying to be calm.
After saying goodbye.
But she could also be like in a bathroom or in a corner. She could have her hand over the receiver. Like it's hard to say, right? I don't know. With the Todd Beamer phone call, they don't mention that he made 2 calls to AT&T, which disconnected, and called his wife, which immediately disconnected. Wait, did he? Wait. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. We should compare. I'm at 154.16. How far back was the Beamer calls?
This is no small, not too high vibes. State that the king lethal time confirms that B3, some 20. Then whole Jefferson conversation passenger turns to a disturbing possibility, which seems to support the in-flight swap hypothesis. That the passengers were forced to call their relatives under duress, pretending to be on the airplane, while in fact they had already been landed in some unknown location. In support of this hypothesis, we have different elements. One is the conversation passenger Todd Beamer had with a GTA airphone operator, Lisa Jefferson, during the hijack of Flight 93. It is through Lisa Jefferson that the whole world learned about the famous call to action, "Let's roll."
When he told the guys, "Are you ready?" I assumed that they were waiting on his cue. Then they responded to him, and he said, "Okay, let's roll."
The 9/11.
Oh, interesting. That's not really a lie, but it's a little bit of an interesting omission that he leaves out that Todd Beamer tried to call AT&T twice, but the calls were terminated upon connection. Then he tried to call his wife, but the call was terminated upon connection. And then he did another call to a GTE airphone operator when his cell phone. So this would be an example of a cell phone call that they tried to make that didn't work, unless we think this evidence is all fake, I guess. Passenger contacted GTE airphone operator connection lasted for the remainder of the flight. According to the 9/11 Commission report, Beamer's call provided the following information. The flight had been hijacked, and the captain and the first officer were lying on the floor, and the first camera were injured or possibly dead. One of the hijackers had a red belt with a bomb stripped his waist. Two of the hijackers, who had knives, entered the cockpit and closed the door behind them. At some point, the hijackers closed the curtain between first class and coach, so the passengers could not see into first class. Those in the rear of the plane were not being monitored by the hijackers. The plane was going up and down in a turn or change direction. He and some of the passengers were planning something, and he was going to put the phone down. Notes made by the FBI following interviews with the phone operators include this information. The first GTE airphone operator said that Beamer asked if he could be connected with his wife or if that was not possible. If a message could be passed to his wife telling her that he loved her. The second GTE airphone operator said she could hear screams, prayers, exclamations, and talk of subduing the hijackers. At approximately 9 a.m., Beamer said that the passengers were about to attack the hijackers. At approximately 9 a.m., 10 a.m. EST, they said that they were going to attack the hijackers. I feel like that's a lot of information left out as well.
In support of this hypothesis, we have different elements. One is the conversation passenger Todd Beamer had with a GTA airphone operator, Lisa Jefferson, during the hijack of Flight 93. It is through Lisa Jefferson that the whole world learned about the famous call to action, "Let's roll."
When he told the guys, "Are you ready?" I assumed that they were waiting on his cue. Then they responded to him, and he said, "Okay, let's roll."
The 9/11 Commission has established that the hijack took place at 9:28. Todd Beamer was connected to Lisa Jefferson at 9:43, some 15 minutes into the hijacking. The FBI report confirms that Jefferson received the call from Beamer at approximately 8:45 Central Time, which is 9:45 Eastern. But the contents of the conversation are strikingly at odds with the official narrative. According to Jefferson, Beamer called to state that the plane was about to be hijacked. He stated that 3 individuals, 2 wielding knives, the third with a bomb strapped to his waist with a red belt, were preparing to take control of the flight. Jefferson estimated that she spoke to Beamer for 7 minutes before the 2 hijackers armed with knives entered the cockpit. This places the hijacking at around...
Is there a way to get that original source of that text? Because it sounds like the guy was just talking, like he'd already called saying that they were going to hijack the flight. It sounds like, but it sounds like he was speaking colloquially. Like the plane was already hijacked. He's like, they're about to hijack the flight, like steer it or do something. Because here it says that Todd Beamer is saying that 2 of the hijackers who had knives entered the cockpit and closed the door behind them. At some point, the hijackers closed the curtains between first class and coach so that passengers could not see into first class. Those in the rear of the plane not being monitored by hijackers. The plane was going up and down and had turned or changed direction. What time was this said? Because this transcription over here is, or over here, it's making it sound like he already knew that they were in control of the flight, but he was speaking colloquially, like, holy shit, like, I think they're hijacking the plane, or they're about to hijack it, like, they're going to drive it somewhere. Like, he was just, like, speaking like that, but he knew it was already hijacked. I imagine if he's saying this on the phone, he already knows it's hijacked. The plane is doing crazy stuff. I wonder if we can find that original, what he's sourcing there.
Two hijackers armed with knives entered the cockpit. This places the hijacking at around 9:52, while officially it took place at 9:28. This is no small discrepancy. How could Beamer be describing events that are supposed to be happening in front of his eyes, when in fact they had already happened half an hour before? How could the terrorists...
There is no transcript. It's sourced from her recollection of events. Oh. Once the alleged transcript of the call between Beamer and Jefferson are pulled from Jefferson's own account of what they spoke about and are accurate in that respect, but other portions of the transcript are incorrect. There was no full tape of their call, as Jefferson did not record it. A key element of the transcript is particularly questionable. It claims that Jefferson told Beamer about the other flights that had crashed in the Twin Towers, as per this excerpt. Jefferson never told Beamer about the other hijackings. She told CBS News that she made a conscious decision not to tell Beamer about the World Trade Center. I wanted him to have hope. I wanted him to think he still had a chance. I didn't want to feel like it was totally hopeless. Oh, and this is her interview with CBS. She took notes, but only a few basic notes on a small post-it pad. The FBI took the notes, but gave no further information, she said. Also, wait, didn't he say that there was no background noise? But here it says, a GTA airphone operator said she could hear screams, prayers, exclamations, and talks of subduing hijackers at approximately 9 a.m. CST, 10 a.m. EST. Beamer said the passengers were about to hide. Why wasn't this? Because he keeps saying over and over again, nobody heard any background noise. This seems like something that would be important to include. Well, apparently somebody heard background noise. Or is this part fake? Would they just say that this part was faked?
Be preparing to take control of the flight at 9:45 when they had already been in the cockpit for more than 15 minutes. The FBI also wrote that Jefferson noted that the call had an unusually low amount of background noise, the same thing Liz Glick had noticed. Furthermore, the record showed...
But he doesn't mention any of the background noise heard by the other airphone operator because Todd had called too. But...
The Beamer's call lasted roughly 1 hour and that the line was left open after the crash. We didn't lose a connection, stated Jefferson, because there's a different sound that you use. I never lost connection. It just went silent. Jefferson stayed on the phone, stated the FBI, until she learned Flight 93 had crashed. Question. Since airphones are powered by the same airplane's electrical system, how could the line have remained open for another 45 minutes after the plane had literally disintegrated to the ground in 1,000 pieces? All these discrepancies seem to suggest that Beamer was not on the plane, observing real events unfolding, but was describing an imaginary pre-scripted situation from a different location. In support of this hypothesis, we also have the dramatic message left by flight attendant Cece Lyles in her husband's answering machine before briefly...
That's a pretty selective telling of this collection of facts, but okay, buddy.
Talking to him on her cell phone, as she herself is suggesting we should listen very carefully.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that.
We too can notice the absence of the typical background noise heard inside a plane.
I don't know
what is the typical background noise heard from a cell phone in a plane? I hate that he says that. People don't call me from planes very often. What does that even mean?
Let's just say there's 3 guys. They've hijacked the plane. I'm trying to be calm.
After saying goodbye, she seems to fumble with the headset while she whispers a few more words into the mouthpiece.
I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
End of message.
Oh, God. Now what?
Even by playing the segment several times, it remains difficult to hear anything different from the words, "It's a frame."
True. Okay, finally, we got our real first piece of smoking gun evidence. True. Absolutely true and based. Finally.
Several times, it remains difficult to hear anything different from the words, "It's a frame."
Okay, if the FBI people or the NSA or the CIA or the fucking president is standing next to her, forcing her to make the phone call, wouldn't they be listening to her? Hold on. So simultaneously, there's an agent next to her saying, here's the script, make the phone call, make it good, or we're going to torture and murder your entire family. She's like, okay. And then she whispers, "It's a frame" at the end, and no one hears it? Okay.
In any case, the problem with the phone calls does not change. The cell phone calls confirmed by the FBI in their reports cannot have been made from the cruising airplanes. Someone has to explain where they came from.
Damn. NDVD 1/3. I've got 4 more hours to go. Or no, 3 more hours to go. Okay, I'm gonna take a break. We might do another hour tonight. Say that Caleb Maupin is getting canceled. Holy shit, different sides of CPI buried their hatchet to call out Caleb Maupin. His abuses must be stopped. Sexual misconduct. Oh no. When I first met Caleb, I was 19 years old, living on my own for the first time, and paying my rent with my own paychecks while going to school full-time. I was in a very vulnerable place socially and financially. At the same time, though, I considered myself to be more mature than my peers because of how independent I was compared to my other political science classmates, because I was one of the only communists. Okay. When I met him, a prominent YouTuber and accomplished journalist over a decade older than me, who treated me like his intellectual equal, he made me feel intelligent and important, especially since he would frequently take me out to dinner where we discussed our political ambitions and the think tank he wanted me to help him build, the Center for Political Innovation. Beginning in 2019, we'd have dinner together at least once a month, and sometimes during those dinners he would bring up what I assumed at the time was his academic interest in corporal punishment, especially spanking. What? As time went on, we became closer and closer friends, which led him to confiding in me in 2020 during the beginning of the COVID pandemic that his academic special interest was, in fact, a sexual one. He even told me that he would engage other people in conversations about corporal punishment and spanking because it turned him on to do so. When we became closer friends in 2021, he finally admitted to me that he would masturbate to the thought of roping unsuspected people, especially women, into these conversations about their experiences with being spanked and other forms of physical abuse. I tend to be very open and a sexually liberal person, so I don't really mind when my friends discuss their sex lives with me in a platonic way. As a matter of fact, I was honored that Caleb supposedly trusted me enough that he was willing to share this part of his life with me. However, I was still under the impression that he was interested in me as a platonic friend and comrade, nothing else, which is why I continue to participate in CPI's conferences and events, including facilitating CPI's California conference for him in September of 2021, which entailed Caleb and I traveling together and sharing a hotel room and transportation. Back then, I was working for a math tutoring company. Caleb knew that my job was incredibly important to me and that I needed the income to pay off my student loans and other financial expenses. I only agreed to go to California with Caleb under the condition that I would be able to work on the Monday we left because I had already been assigned a shift that day. When I first asked him, he told me that it wouldn't be an issue because the conference was from Friday to Sunday, so that Monday I could work after we checked at the hotel. Nonetheless, when Monday rolled around, Caleb insisted that he wanted to have lunch at a Mexican restaurant before we left and refused to get me a separate Uber to get to the airport early to work. Since I couldn't complete my shift in the restaurant, I ended up missing it and losing my job as a result. Even though I told him this is exactly what would happen, I explained to him the many reasons why I couldn't afford to lose my job. When I did get fired, Caleb insisted that I'll be okay and that we, himself and CPI, will not abandon you. Little did I know that Caleb reassured me he'd help me find another job. He didn't necessarily mean another tutoring gig. Remember on Monday when I said that missing my shift might cost me my job? I was unfortunately correct. I will call you when I get home tonight. Okay, I'm really sorry, Caleb. I'll do my best to find another job. Why are you apologizing? You're doing your best. I'm really sorry that happened. I will try to help you however I can. You will be okay. You are safe. How will your dad's credit being affected prevent preventing from making mortgage payments? He's on a mortgage that has some kind of variable rate, so if his credit goes down, his payments go up. I don't know the exact particulars, but it was one of those predatory mortgages in the early 2000s. We should talk to him soon. Try not to catastrophize and say one thing necessarily leads to another. You need a new job. That's what you're dealing with. Okay, you're right. I need to take a step back and breathe. I have BPD and OCD, so catastrophizing tends to be my brain's default mode. Oh my god, she's like the actual meme child. I'm not ready to talk to my dad yet, though. I can't even stop crying, let alone hold a coherent conversation with the most judgmental person in my life. Keaton assures me he's on his way to you right now. It's okay to let your emotions out. This is a big loss. I'm about to go see him. Thank you for helping comfort me. I really appreciate it. We were friends. We're not abandoning you. It's reassuring to hear. The main conflict between Caleb and I that arose after I lost my job was this. I started living in Jersey City with the John Brown Volunteers in August 2021, so I had been paying $200 a week in rent to Caleb to cover my portions of the $600 a week hotel costs. Before I moved in, Caleb had been paying the exact same hotel rate for only Joey and Keaton to live there, but he told me I had to pay a third of the rent when I moved in because he was supposedly paying the rest of all of our expenses. Despite this agreement, I was paying the majority of the household expenses for the John Brown Volunteers because the only money we received to support ourselves was the half our canvassing money we kept each day. Most of the time, we'd make about $30 to $100 per day total. So when I lost my math tutoring job, Caleb still expected me to continue financially supporting the JBV. Well, Caleb expected me to spend even more time canvassing, even though I lost my job, because he thought canvassing was a sufficient way of making money for myself and the organization. I could have canvassed less so I could get another job, or he could have stopped asking me to pay a third of the rent since it seemed unnecessary before I'd started living there. But what Caleb wanted me to do, I don't know. What do we got? The day after I lost my job at the math tutoring company, I told Caleb I wanted to try to at least find other part-time work. However, his reaction to that suggestion made it very clear that he didn't ever see it as an option. He told me that I couldn't have one foot living biologically and one foot in the revolution. This quote, which is part of a much longer lecture he gave about how I needed to devote even more time to our political work if I truly considered myself serious about it, was very hurtful considering I'd just given up my job for Caleb and his organization. Yet, just treating the Center for Political Innovation as the main aspect of my life wasn't enough for him. Caleb made it clear that if I really cared about him and my other comrades, CPI would have to become my life. Jesus Christ. I wish I would have saved a Reddit post. But there was a Reddit post a while ago that was really, really, really interesting. Jesus. Guy was talking to a girl, seemed like they were both pretty obsessed with each other. Then something happened with the girl, and she said she didn't text the guy that day, and he asked her what happened, and she said she just needed a little bit of space because of other stuff that had gone on in real life. He texted her that night, the next morning, and then the next night, and he was asking the subreddit, he was like, hey, like, I just want to show this girl that I'm supporting her, and she's not really responding much. Should I drive by her house that's in the next city and drop off a care package? And thankfully, the subreddit kind of got it right, and they were like, hey, dude, you need to chill. You got to back the fuck up. Something that I notice that people do, this is like a little thing that I do. If I am giving a gift to somebody, or if I'm trying to give something to somebody, I want them to feel like I'm doing something for them that has no benefit to myself. Because oftentimes, people use gifts as a way to get control over somebody, or to make somebody feel like they owe them something, or to foster some form of dependence that isn't really a gift for them. It's a gift for the person giving it. That's always something you have to be really careful about so that you're not like a manipulative piece of shit. Like if I give a gift to somebody, it's like, hey, here's the thing. Cool. I hope you like it. And then boom. Like if you never talk to me again, like at least you have your gift. But when you're giving somebody something like, oh, here, like I bought you a phone and we have like a shared phone plan. So like we can always text each other, something like that, right? Like that's not like you're not giving a gift to them. You're giving them something for you because you want to foster some dependence. Or like if you give somebody something like, hey, look, I gave you a big thing to hang up to show that we love each other in your main room, right? You're trying to like mark your territory. It's not the same. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes when people give gifts, it's a little bit not cool. Yeah. Sorry, hold on. Okay. Trying to Tinder more so that I can have experience with Miami people, so I can have conversations with you guys. Okay, it's research. I'm doing market research right now. Okay, what is this? Just tuning in. Have you come to the conclusion on the 9/11 stuff yet? Yeah, I think it was planned by the guy that's on the moon right now. Wait, what am I doing? Oh. Watch this YouTube short. Wait, what? Wait, we were reading an article.
This is called a double pendulum. Its motion is completely chaotic, not random. Chaotic means that it appears random simply because it's very sensitive to the initial conditions, but its movement is completely deterministic if we know the starting conditions exactly. These little still balls falling through the pegs are another example of chaotic movement. We never know the starting conditions, so it's impossible to know where one single ball is going to land. But what's cool is if you have a large number of chaotic events in one system, a pattern emerges that lets you make predictions on where the average ball will land. This is the basic idea of statistics. In fact, one of my favorite quotes about this subject by the statistician Sir Francis Galton, who invented the Galton board.
Why did he start talking at half speed?
That I'm showing here. He said that whenever a large sample of chaotic elements are taken in hand, an unsuspected and most beautiful form of regularity proves to have been latent all along. That's why when you have a large population of people, you can predict what they're going to do because even though their individual choices are random and chaotic, since they're a large system, you can predict what the average person is going to do. This is called a double pendulum. Its motion is completely chaotic, not random.
Cool! How chaotic! We should talk later, but basically it all gets down to this. You're in a situation where you know your housing and food will be taken care of. You will not be left out to dry. However, you have some rather unrealistic expectations about other stuff you insist is absolutely need. Your life is your life, your decisions are your decisions, but you need to figure out how dedicated you are to communism and if you are ready to leave your old life behind or not. You have 1 foot in living biologically and 1 foot in the revolution, and that's a very hard way to live. I can help you and be your friend, but I cannot solve all your problems. I cannot make hard choices for you. Jesus, that's not inherently abusive, but that's a very, very big red flag. Yikes. It's been a long time thinking about you last night. I know these are very hard times for you. Sorry, I'm probably overthinking all this. I just care about you a lot. Spend a long time in prayer. Talk to you soon. Jesus. I don't understand what you're saying, although with all due respect, I think there are certain issues you've had the privilege of not having to deal with, and those pressures are something I'm more than happy to take over my own. The reality of it is that I just can't abandon my family. I don't have the privilege of doing that because I've been their rock for my entire life, and they can't do certain things without me. I know it's probably difficult to deal with, me having these other obligations, but they're obligations, not choices, but there are certain things. Oh no, if he gets sexually involved with this girl, oof, that's pretty yikes. That's pretty yikes, bro. I'm not asking you to abandon your family. We can talk later. There are some things I cannot offer you. Engineer here, more than willing to go over some aircraft if you like. Sure, maybe later, Clifton. Therefore, oh no. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh no. That next sentence. Therefore, I ended up doing sex work so I could make enough to support our household and pay off my debts while still having enough time to... Jesus. I distinctly remember telling Caleb that it seemed like sex work was my only way out of this delicate financial situation. His response was simply that he respects my decision. Prostitute yourself for the communist cause, comrade. What the fuck? In retrospect, it seems like the real reason he didn't mind doing sex work while I was living in CPI's New Jersey housing is because he probably wanted to become one of my clients. For what it's worth, after I left the JBV house, he eventually did become a client of mine. Caleb kicked me out of the John Brown Volunteers in the beginning of November 2021 after I relapsed on heroin in late October. At that point, I took some time away from the organization, only attended a few smaller events. She relapsed at age 19? She relapsed on heroin? Or... Holy shit, these people's lives. I feel like I'm watching Euphoria. Oh my God. Caleb kicked me out of the John Brown Volunteers at the beginning of November 2021 after relapse on heroin in late October. At that point, I took some time away from the organization, only attended a few smaller events, stayed at my fiance's apartment to focus on my recovery and getting clean again. While by that time I had started my own math tutoring business and had my own students, I was still doing sex work as a side hustle to supplement my income because I didn't have enough students to cover the revenue I'd lost once I stopped canvassing early and had to pay my own utilities again. In December 2021, Caleb asked me to replace his former dominatrix, Miss Lucy. I agreed to do so for $250 per session because I did need the money, and it felt like if I said no, hold on, wait, what am I reading right now? I'm having a stroke. Oh my God. And I felt like if I said no, I'd even be more isolated from the rest of CPI than I already was as a result of my relapse. By that time, in mid-December, I was clean again, which Caleb insisted upon in order for us to see each other. Yet he was still apparently lying to the rest of CPI that I continued to be in the midst of my drug addiction. He did this while saying to my face that he didn't want me going to CPI events or his birthday party, so I didn't run into his wife, Mekis? His wife, because he thought it would make things awkward? I later learned from other CPI members that there's a common tactic of his isolating someone from the group through rumors and hearsay, in order to make sure I didn't interact with other CPI members in case I decided to tell them about our arrangement. Truth be told, I was terribly afraid of anyone else in the organization finding out I was doing this with him. I was afraid if I told anyone, they wouldn't believe me, and if I told someone, he'd be shunned and ostracized. I saw Caleb as his dominant a few times in December of 2021. He essentially paid me to reenact his childhood corporal punishment as a fatherly figure to discipline him. Included in this arrangement was the understanding that he'd also compensate me for the several hours he spent sexting me about his kink. When we weren't seeing each other in person, he texted me so often. I eventually had to ask him to stop because I kept getting notifications from his sexually explicit messages while I was teaching my students. However, he only paid me for our in-person meetings and never even mentioned billing for my texting labor again, despite the first agreement. After a couple months of constant communication and a few punishment sessions, he abruptly stopped speaking to me, acting as if I suddenly didn't exist. I was very confused and hurt by this because I truly thought that by agreeing to do sex work for him, I'd won his good graces so we continued to be friends. I knew he didn't want me in the group afterwards, but I thought at the time he'd at least appreciate my contributions as far and respect me as a person. Hold on. Somebody said he deleted his Twitter? I was gonna say, this is reading like it's not real, but... What is going on, dude? Y'all motherfuckers are crazy. Hold on. Hold on. This isn't... I'm laughing at like another sexual... It's not really... She didn't need to release this level of detail. She didn't need to release this. But... Think you can hold me accountable for my feelings about that book? Absolutely. Will moderate your detention assignment. You have to write, I must accept my punishment. I need your discipline to grow and be safe 100 times. That is what you're going to say to me when I ask, why are you being punished, Caleb? If you get that answer wrong, then you clearly haven't learned that lesson. You'll be punished even more. Thank you. Can you remind me why the boatmaster needed to spank the last duck every day? To keep him from getting lost and hurting himself. The one time he decides to avoid his punishment, he's isolated from his family and almost killed. If the boatmaster doesn't spank the duck will be like a sailboat without a rudder, directionless, alone, and with nowhere to go. The boatmaster was keeping the ducks safe, encouraging them to hurry back, frowny face. That hard spank with the stick was given of love. I'm so sorry for questioning it. I know I need to get punished. You must be very disappointed in me. If you were my teacher, would I get sent to the paddle for this? It's... I mean... There's nothing wrong with this. My dad should have put me over his knee more often. It taught me not to have this disrespectful attitude. You should spank me really hard. Am I going to have to eat soap? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, he began telling people that I was dangerous and two-faced. We have flirt texted many times, always consensual. I'm going to pretend this never happened and cut her off. We flirt texted on Wednesday. What does flirt texted mean? And then 2B, member 1's statement. My bottom until it's red and bruised doesn't arouse you, so you won't do it with passion. Right, and I know there are things like financial domination and stuff, but yeah, I'm not passionate about it, so in the end, I felt like I would be wasting time and money. I would go through a lot of effort for something that makes me feel gross, because I had imagined most clients are not young or attractive. My old roommate, she seemed interested in some of this. I'm going to casually bring up the social media discipline thing when I see her next week. Not directly ask her, but just casually bring it up. See how she reacts. Yeah, nothing to lose. I can't do that for you, just so you know. Only because you have mentioned it to me. LOL, I was a proposition you. Don't worry, we are comrades. I don't bring this stuff into politics. You want to know... Hold on. Are you guys ready for worlds to crash together? Are you guys ready for worlds to crash together? My old roommate. Do you know who I think he's referring to there? I think Anna was his old roommate. I think she said that before. Am I making that up, or am I remembering this correctly? She did say that, yeah. I wonder if that's who he's referring to here. When worlds collide. We've got Vosh and Hassan watching our Sneeko streams. We've got our political worlds. Hold on one second. Oh, I'm sorry. Worlds are guys, we're approaching the singularity. Maybe that 9/11 dude was right. There are no coincidences. So I'm guessing eventually he did proposition this woman, huh? Write articles, travel the world, be a big communist revolutionary leader, and the whole world has done everything to block me from doing that. I sold my blood plasma. I got mistreated for years in WWP, and now I have a nice, comfortable job. I'm well known, comparatively speaking. I don't get it here. I'm practically begging people to do what I fought to do my whole life. The door is wide open, and people don't want it. Why did I have to fight so hard to do what other people don't even care enough to do? My deepest apologies against others, and I've already explained I care about my personal safety. It's not an issue of apologizing. You did not do anything wrong. You just aren't like me. Wait, what was this about? Caleb's insistence that I go to Venezuela to condemn America. Oh my God. At 1 a.m., he sent me a message asking why I and other Senate members didn't have as much drive as him. He explained that he's so much accomplished, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Jesus. Oh, he couldn't go to Venezuela, but it was really disappointing that none of us would go to Venezuela. What ensued next was 2 hours back and forth argument where he tried out every manipulation tactic to try and tell me why I'm wrong for not going to Venezuela. Jesus Christ. You never understood what Sign is about, and if you're scared of being put on list, you really should stay the fuck away from me. It's pathetic after all the time and money I've contributed to Sina that this is what you chose to start your attack on me over. It was not an attack on you. You have lulled me into thinking you are someone I can whine to you about my problems with. You gained my trust. You got me to open up to you. Oh shit, wait. I feel like on April 17, 2029, when I shot down any notion of ever prostituting myself out for Caleb, I think he tried to act nice to him over a bit. Then on May 1st, 2019, created a strange argument over false pretense to try to rile me up and get me. Wait, what? Hold on. I was worried if I clearly told him to stop talking about sexual fantasies and him needing prostitutes, I wouldn't be able to be in Sina anymore or have a working friendship with anymore. Oh, wait, hold on. Dude, this thing is wild. Between February of 2019 and April of 2019, Caleb began mentioning the idea hold on. Sorry, fuck. I feel like I'm making fun of like the sexual proclivities of somebody, which isn't really fair, but Caleb began mentioning that he had a social media coach. Caleb started to increase how often he would bring up the social media coach idea. He wanted to find a woman who would text him throughout the week to check in on him and make sure to shame and admonish him if he wasn't reaching his goals and growing his following online. Then the social media coach would meet up with him and spank his rear end at the end of the week, which he would pay for. I kept once again trying to do deflecting measures. Like I would tell him to check on an app called Seeking Arrangements where you can create a profile. Actually, this sounds like a fucking based idea, actually. Can I get a woman who's like, if you hit like these KPIs, well, like fuck you at the end of the week or some shit? Hey, shoot me an email if somebody wants to, if you live in the Miami area. This actually sounds like a base motivation to keep your business growing. That's the Sigma grind set right there. I wasn't exactly uncomfortable yet because I know I could always reject in the advance, but it was also honestly starting to get annoying, and if he wanted his fix so bad, he needed to just go somewhere and find it and stop talking to me about it all the time, considering the fact that I was a member of Sina and therefore first and foremost a comrade/activist. Again, Caleb was simultaneously telling me I was such a kind of special friend and such a hardworking Sina member. I felt empathy for how he said he felt like an outcast growing up, blah, 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 blah. Jesus. think that Caleb had devoted far too much time to talking about his sexual life and gossiping about such slandering comrades. To me, it's very concerning, and I was partly silent from 2019 until now. Jesus, what a wild ride. Okay, I don't care to read the rest of this, but... Oh, man. Rip. Dude, Sneako's getting bullied for so much random shit. Apparently people... I will never do this again. I love Islam. Inshallah, Allah Akbar. Wait, oh no, wait, now he's memeing? I can't tell. I think he legitimately got shook over the N-word stuff with Fuentes. I thought I heard him say that people were emailing him about making fun of Islam, and he was getting upset about that, but maybe he was joking? I have no idea. I don't know if he's joking or not now. Oh, this is his wife. That's not how adults act. That's why I'm moving up in the world and you aren't. You don't know how. You don't know have social skills. You are the one. I am asserting myself like an adult and I might get my bonus dream. Eventually I'm going to make enough money with CPI that I will quit RT and then I will leave you also. I'm going to set up a big compound in the woods where I live with all the kids and I studio to broadcast my show over the internet. You are crazy. Oh, get me off the internet. You guys are fucking crazy. All of you are fucking wild. Okay? You guys are fucking wild. Christ. And he did it. He deleted his shit. Him deleting his Twitter is humiliating, so it just plays into his face. Stop. This is a good tweet, but no one's going to understand it. I think it's definitely time for Caleb's social media manager to reach out to him and tell him he's been a very, very bad boy. True. But it's so, like... it's so esoteric. Oh, whatever. Damn. Okay.
Watch the board API Club now assemble some vid.
Can we admit that the boys memes are getting stale now? Not yet. Almost, though. They're getting there. I'm admittedly beset by boredom with the boys memes.
Destiny doesn't dye his hair blue. Gets banned off Twitch. Coincidence. Dan is rich and Jewish. Coincidence. Mr. Mutin moves to Canada after Trump FBI raid. Coincidence. Melina moved to Austin after Taliban leader is assassinated.
True. Lots of truths in there.
Minus $100 low America. The moon landing and 9/11 truthers are all just memeing, right? They're just memeing, right? Please someone tell me they're just memeing. Team, thermite and dust. Free fall collapse, explosions heard. Building 7, molten pool at round 0. No footage of plane hitting Pentagon.
Cool, dude. Waiting for these donuts to go through.
Destiny, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when days are great.
Has Hassan watched Sneeko and Destiny content? I think both Vosh and Hassan are avoiding Sneeko like the plague because I'm so involved. It's kind of funny that like those two, well, mainly Hassan, ended up cock blocking me out of like a lot of
Have
content
you
on
looked into
Twitch.
the dancing Israelis?
But I think I'm kind of content cooking Hassan a little bit now because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I admit it. I could be wrong. But I feel like Hassan probably wants to react to and engage with a lot of the Sneeko stuff going on, but he's probably really scared to because I'm like so peripheral to everything.
Yeah, it might work for YouTube donos, but does it work for actual donos? Dicks. 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 Dick sticks.
What is a woman documentary? Cock a cock. Oh, banana, banana, banana. Banana, 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 banana. Cock a cock, cock.
Cool. Am I done researching for the day?
Watch a dancing
I might watch
Israelis
another
vid
hour
will be
later.
way
and we'll
more
see.
interesting.
Bro, my base is fucked, dude. Do I need to go to space to find more resources? Will I even find more? Like, when is the appropriate time to go to space? Because I think I can technically make space science. Oh no, I need to make it in space.
Watch a dancing Israelis
I have
vid
to
will
go
be
to
way
space.
more interesting.
Personal laser machine.
They literally just said the other plane had an engine failure.
Cool, dude. It's easier to film you pretend to go to space with this mod. Good one. DMCA out of all the Austin Twitch people, basically, they didn't want to touch Destiny because... Oh, you were talking to someone else. Oh, DMAC, never mind. Do you know the format of the debate? Are you going to debate the question? I don't know, dude. We'll probably just start watching it and it'll probably get derailed in 10 minutes and be done with it.
This subject matter is inspiring me. How close to the Pentagon do you reckon I could get in my paramotor?
Good question, dude. Okay, blue chips, low density structures.
I remember fuck all from the actual day, but everyone I knew was on that conspiracy Kool-Aid after.
Bro, cool. Thank you. Thank you for telling us. How's Moody doing?
Pretty weird how the best username color is available there too.
Ooh, personal laser meme.
Hey, Steven, can you do me a favor and twirl the ends of your mustache up? Like an old-timey cartoon villain. Thanks, King.
What was that noise? Batteries.
I found a calculation of the Pentagon plane for G-forces.
Yeah?
And have a few other bits of information.
Bro, that's so cool. Maybe we'll bring you on at some point, and you can come and educate all of us. Oh my god, it's getting funnier and funnier.
Fart, 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 fart.
Quando sono di tre quarti le regalo alcohol amico si decido per più tardi la conservo dentro il frigo. Oba menino.
Oil.
What the fuck? How much can each of these hold? 10?
Amagus.
Dude, oh my god, like the hit video game. Rossman in YouTube chat. What's up, buddy? Ooh, okay. Are we caught up on donuts?
That's it. This is too good to not be able to spam on the walls.
What?
What is this, me?
Yeah, it's you, dude.
Oh shit. Okay, hold up, I wrote some questions down.
I can't not on the wall. Right now, why? This IT sub only you bitch.
Okay, you said you can't practice on your saxophone, right? Because in an apartment and shit. Have you ever looked into getting a digital saxophone?
No, I don't think it's the same thing.
That's pretty similar.
Am I going to be
Super
reimbursed for my
expensive,
DGG chatting labor?
1,500 or something.
It's pretty. How do you make noise with it?
It's digital. You can still blow into it and shit, right? And the air. Look, I'm not a musician. I just heard it's similar. Okay, but the music is all still dependent on your breath and shit, right? But it's the output is just digital. You can just YouTube digital saxophone. There's a lot of videos about it.
I think 95% of playing a horn at a high level is, it looks like it's the button pushing. Like that's the most impressive part to when people are looking at, like, wow, look how quick they push the buttons. But it's actually stuff related to your embouchure. So like the strength of the muscles of your mouth, the control of the air in your throat, the position of your tongue in your mouth. Like those are the things that are really, really difficult to play at a very high level and to sound good. I don't know how much you could practice that on a digital horn, but hey, who knows?
I mean, as far as I know, it's literally made for that. So if it, like, for practice. So I mean, like
it's probably better than nothing.
Yeah.
5, 6. But what else?
You can look into it. Okay. So I've heard this argument. It's not mine, but I found it hard to argue against. That a protracted war in Ukraine is worse than just letting Russia, basically roll them over, right? Because it will lead to more human suffering if we help them without actually, having boots on the ground and ending the war quickly in Ukraine's favor. We basically are just sending help, and it leads to a super long war, which leads to a lot of human suffering. Do you think there's any merit to the argument? And if not, how would you argue against it?
That's just stupid as fuck. You wouldn't measure whether or not a war is good or bad based on just the total amount of suffering, right? Like there was probably more suffering in the Revolutionary War for the United States rather than just letting themselves be taxed by the British. But like that's not like, otherwise then that would basically say if any big country wanted to go to war with any other country, the other country always has a moral compulsion to instantaneously surrender to reduce human suffering. That's just like the dumbest thing ever.
Well, no, I think the argument here is the protracted war, right?
If Ukraine has a right to defend themselves, we can't say that just because it might be more suffering, you have to give up. No.
Yeah, I'd say so too, but I can't really argue against the fact that it will lead to more suffering.
Yeah, it will, but I mean, it's whether or not the suffering, whether or not they have a right to defend themselves, which I think they do. Like, there's going to be some suffering in the defense, but I mean, I think they have a right to do that.
Do you think you could quantify how much?
Are you hold on? Are your friends like Vosh fans or?
No. He's a Jordan Peterson fan, if anything.
Oh, it's on the conservative side. There's a lot of ways to get this dumb opinion. It sounds like some weird consequentialist argument, but no. I mean, like I mean, it's not a matter of quantifying it. It's like you have a right to defend yourself, right? Like if you're a woman and you're going to get raped, and they told you 1,000,000%. The guy's only going to rape you. He's not going to like hurt you at all. Aside from raping you, he's just going to rape you. Does the woman have a right to defend herself, even if it might lead to more suffering? Like, of course she has a right to defend herself.
That's literally not the argument he's making. He's saying like we should defend them, right? But we're not doing it the right way. right? And we can't because we're in NATO and.
Well, yeah, I mean this is our only option. It's not like we can go to war with Russia, right?
Exactly. So that's the problem, right? And he says if the only two options is having a protracted war in Ukraine, that they will lose. This is also part of his argument. He doesn't think Ukraine will win.
I mean, that's to be determined, right?
Yeah, that's true.
People thought Russia would win in a matter of like days, and here we are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think it's a very good argument, but I don't know. Like, I guess I can't really argue against the fact that it is more human suffering, but yeah, but whatever. Okay. One really other stupid point. You don't, we don't have to talk about it, but it's a meme on your Discord server sometimes. Can you be attracted to lolicon without being a pedophile?
I mean, they probably go hand in hand, I would imagine. But there might be maybe some people can't be. I don't know, but they're probably pretty. I imagine there's probably a high level of correlation. Is what I would imagine.
Yeah. I actually don't really want to argue about it. Okay. Thanks, dude.
Okay, have fun, buddy. Bye. Holy Christ. Swifty.
Hello.
What do you got?
So I was having a conversation with my uncle today, and I had a problem. So we were talking about like fake news and what media you can trust, and he was saying, now, I don't know if this is true, but it felt like it was true that a lot of the mainstream media didn't really cover the Canada like trucker stuff, and I didn't really know how to combat that because I kind of felt like.
I feel like I heard about that a decent amount, even in America. I'm sure it was even more talked about in Canada, but. But what would that have to do
from mainstream media sources?
I thought so. I feel like I heard about it. I googled like mainstream articles to talk about like the damage it was causing and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, basically their point was that they were saying they felt like they had to go to like Sky News Australia because other like people like CNN or BBC just didn't cover like the Canada trucker stuff.
Okay.
And I didn't.
I thought I was hearing about it.
That.
I thought I was hearing about it pretty often, but maybe we just run in different media circles.
I didn't know how to combat that because I was like.
I mean, just Google articles and see if they have articles about it. No.
Yeah, I guess true. I wrote about this in chat yesterday. I wasn't memeing. When I said that like you should have pointed out to Sneeko that when he said that Nick couldn't say the N-word, he's trampling on someone else's free speech. Because it feels like an hour ago he was like constantly, talking about don't trample on other people's free speech, but then he was happy to do it. And I feel like that would be a good thing to point out, no?
Wow, maybe. Okay, but
that's what you got from me?
Okay.
That's it?
Well, what else am I supposed to say? Damn.
Okay, alright. Alright, thanks, Steve.
Have fun, be careful, babe.
Yep, you too. Bye.
What?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Keffel shit, if you don't mind.
Okay. Wait. I'm on a 2 Red Bull a day diet now. 1 sec.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry, guys. It's gonna be short and sweet. Just like it was with your mom. Obama.
Okay, what do you got, Ben?
So, do you think that, like, I guess maybe you can even abstract it from Keffels herself, but do you think that people typically protest, like, these digital services for their own, like, political causes because they know that to some degree, people on the right don't really do that? So what I'm thinking is, just to kind of elaborate, what I'm thinking is I feel like people could just as easily go for Keffel's like DIY HRT website and whatever site hosts that site, or not the one that she runs, but the one that she sponsors. I could imagine a group of conservatives like organizing to protest the web host of that site just as easily as she's trying to do for Kiwi Farms. But I just don't really feel like the motivation is there, or like the kind of like alignment or in some way is there amongst conservatives to like do shit like that.
I
So
imagine they would if they knew about it, probably. They're just probably not sophisticated enough to know much about anything related to trans issues. That's probably why they just don't do it out of ignorance, not because of they wouldn't want to.
well, when I was talking about it earlier with my boyfriend, and I was thinking like, is it so much because that they're not aware of it with trans issues, or that they just don't have like an idea of how this kind of website stuff works in general? Maybe.
Probably that. They just don't know. They just are not very sophisticated when it comes to trans issues.
And yeah, sorry to just circle back to my initial question. Do you feel like the reason why left-wing people are so willing to do that is because they know that, like, you know, their stuff won't be really attacked in some way?
No, I'm sure if conservatives started to, left-leaning people would still do it. I doubt it would change their minds on things much.
Okay. That's one thing I was thinking about because, you know, like, not to, like, say what about her or, you know, look at both sides, but that's immediately what I thought of when I saw that news that she was trying to make another push for that, which I don't really think anyone's ever going to really successfully take down Kiwi Farms, or, you know, disrupt Kiwi Farm service until it goes down.
Probably
I think
not.
people have tried and failed in the past, so.
No, if it hasn't yet, it's probably here for a while.
Do you think if Kiwi Farms ever does, like, dissolve in some way, that the people who go on that website will kind of spread out to others and kind of just shit up a lot of different things on, like, the clear net, quote-unquote?
No, probably not. It'll just depend on if another site like Kiwi Farms gets made.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Or maybe they'll all just go back to 4chan or some shit like that. Alright, man. Well, have a good one.
Yeah, have fun. Be careful, bud.
Bye.
Jesus Christ. These fucking... Hello, based egghead. Oh, you're here to troll me.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, babe.
Oh. So the other day you mentioned that you think Trump truly believes that the election was stolen.
I don't know. I'm like 51-49 on it. Like, I can go back and forth. I'm not sure.
Okay, because I'm just, if he truly believed it, I feel like he would have gone way harder rather than like that flimsy Georgia call. He would have deployed far more financial resources to like getting law firms involved. I don't know. It just, if he
And it
truly
feels like he
believed,
tried about as hard as he could, no? Like, what more could he have done?
I mean, he could have hired better lawyers than Rudy Giuliani to represent him.
He just seems wildly incompetent when it comes to hiring lawyers. I mean, look at Cohen. Like, it just seems like he's just really bad at picking people for this type of shit.
Maybe. I don't know. Especially just the Georgia call where he's like, hey, I just need you to find, one more vote than we had. I feel like he would have been way more aggressive.
Well, he was pretty dumb. I mean, I don't know what you want to say.
No, it's a good point. Yeah. When you just said that, it threw me for a loop. Anyway, that's all I had.
All right. Well, hey, have fun. Be careful.
You too. Take care.
Can't close Van. What you got?
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
So you've mentioned before doing a restream through Facebook. Is that still an idea you're working on?
I did it a few times, but I don't think I want to go through the effort of promoting it, and like having to watch 3 different chats and 3 streaming services at once is like a lot of work.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a great method of pulling in like regular conservatives, like not that extreme.
Maybe, who knows?
But,
maybe in the future
yeah.
I'll try again, maybe, but it's just a lot of...
Yeah, the second question is a recommendation, actually. Since we've done a documentary stream recently, maybe we could watch the What is a Woman documentary recently.
Wow, maybe.
Or soon. Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Can we get a date or something?
Yeah, December 29th.
December, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
He wins, as always.
Jesus Christ. Oh, what is this? Destiny, I have a good question. Oh boy. What do you want?
Okay, so I have a quick question about I think something you talked about yesterday. You said you would consider Trump a fascist. I'm going into my 3rd year of college for political science. I wouldn't, mostly because in my classes, a really big focus on fascism is like a promotion of like masculinity, male youth, and especially on like separating races, like your national race.
Okay.
I wouldn't really consider you a fascist, but just a right-wing authoritarian. Does
Cool.
that like you at all?
Your thing cut out. Does that what you at all?
Does that like change your like view of like fascism at all, or your thought on if Trump is a fascist?
Not really, not much.
Okay, and then secondly, I want to introduce you to the next evolution of Dogwarts, alright? I am the Aristotle to Dan's Plato. There's Dark Dogwarts 2. How much money would it cost for you to let a dog the fuck you?
Damn, good question. Well, we'll get Dan in here someday and we'll have him answer that, okay?
Yeah, I just need to know what Dan's answer is.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Thank you, that's all. Okay. Nope, that's all.
Have fun, be careful, bud.
Alright, yep, bye-bye.
Jesus. Barrett, for the 7th time this week, what's up?
4th time ever. Since ever watching you, ever being on stream, in any year ever. 4th time. Okay. Is that clear?
Yep, what do you got? Underwater men.
Underwater. Love. There was a video that you opened in another tab and then closed the other day. It has Hank. He does a lot of the science channel stuff with like tons of millions of views.
Yeah.
He had like a coming to liberalism moment, and I think that's an important shift, a paradigm shift in the politics of things. Yes, Hank Green, where he actually goes through a lot of the legislation of the actual Biden bill.
Okay.
And it's a really good video. It breaks down a lot of the climate science, and where like the money is going to, and I think that's important because one of the issues that we're going to see in our life is climate change, and it can't just be like, oh, next year, once everything eventually tips the scale, we'll start talking about climate change. It's something that we should spend a little bit of time, maybe once every other month, just to kind of look into a little bit. But that's a very important Biden bill, and I think you should look into it. And it's a cool video about it.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Anything else?
Yeah. He goes over kind of like how basically a lot of the things you've been saying. Like there was a question a long time ago you got that was like, what was like a big thing that changed in your politics? And it was like kind of, I think it had to do with like electoralism and how you value that. And he had a very similar like moment, and I don't know, I think that's something you guys can kind of connect on, even if not directly in a conversation, at least in the video.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me about this video?
It's just look, we're doing,
I'm just asking. I'm just
we're doing like, there's so many shitty memes nowadays that it's like having any kind of like attempt at a real conversation is dog shit. We're laughing at Obama, which is it's fucking, this is a wake up call, okay? Oh, but it's a shitty meme. It always has been. 100% of it. It's supposed to be ironic for a couple of days. After that, dog shit. Okay, a lot of memes like that. A lot of them. And so I'm just trying to have like some kind of conversation. All right, that's it. That's what I want. It's less shitty memes, less ironic, less like fourth layer irony memes. It's just something that I think we used to do a lot more. We just have real conversations. Okay, that's it. That's that. Also, community Minecraft server, modern Minecraft. That's it.
Gotcha.
All right, have a good one.
Have fun, buddy. Who is it?
Fuck was that guy talking about?
Oh, American Nacho's back. The 9/11 truther. The moon landing denier. What's up?
Okay. Have you turned to the dark side yet?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, man. Alright, is there any... You don't even have to say it out loud, but, like, is there anything so far that you've seen that you're just like, what the fuck?
Not really, no. Why? What do you think I should have seen that should make me think that way?
I don't know, because I don't know how far in you are, but...
About 2 hours.
2 hours? Okay. You got plenty more. Alright.
Is there anything you want to point out to me right now that I should be keeping tabs on, or...?
No, I was just triggered that guy said that Obama wasn't a good meme. So...
Gotcha. Well, you came in here to represent, and now everybody knows that you think that's a good meme, okay?
Yep.
Alright. Joe.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey. First time ever calling in. This is just a random call-in stream.
Yep.
I had a question for you that it's just a random question. For the age of consent in America, what do you think the ideal age should be?
I don't know. I don't feel strongly about it. In some places it's 16, in some places it's 18. I don't really think about it much. Unless I'm going to engage in somebody sexually, in which case I always ask for 2 forms of ID.
Okay. Because I was thinking about, ever since you had the conversation with Amos Yee, I kept wondering why we had a age of consent in the first place when really we just need, like, informed consent and assuming that both people are sexually mature enough and they understand that is, like, the more important thing than any sort of arbitrary age.
Yeah, probably because it's hard to know that for sure, so we just kind of, like... the reality is there are probably 13 or 14-year-olds out there that are mature enough to consent to sex, and there's probably 25-year-olds out there that aren't mature enough to consent to sex. Like, sure, but, like, at some point we have to figure out, like, well, what's a number that we're going to decide on as a society? 18 is, like, a rough enough, good enough estimate, and we just kind of, like, peg everybody there, and that's just kind of how it has to be. Like, we don't have, like, brain scan machines to figure out, like, where every single person is to figure out, like, what they can handle or can't handle sexually, so...
Exactly. I used to think that if there were, like, a super intelligent, super wise, like, I guess, younger person that wanted to have sex, I don't want to say, like, pre or post-puberty because that gets into some sketchy shit, but, like, if they were younger, but they had the mentality of someone older, would I still care about the experience that they've had in life in regards to their ability to make that decision? And I think I've said it, yes. It has to be somewhere
might just cut out like
post
37
14 or
times
something.
in that sentence. So I'm not sure what you said, but I probably agree with you.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry.
No,
my mic's shit for now because my computer. Last meme, I cut off my family because I felt like they were toxic for me and it was a horrible decision, but I'm sticking to it because of some stuff you said years ago, and I'm still questioning whether that's a good decision, so don't always listen to Papa Destiny.
Why'd you cut them out?
Is just not a good it's a whole bunch of shit.
Well, give me the cliff notes. Give me like 2 or 3 things. I can tell you if it was a good decision.
When I was a kid, they like, when I was a kid, I wouldn't say psychological torture because that's like being melodramatic, but like they would put a lot of really unhealthy pressure on us and us kiddos. they would hit us a bunch when we did wrong and like lose their mind to unimaginable degrees. And then when I reached adulthood and I started confronting them about these sorts of things, they kind of tried to gaslight me into believing that it never happened, and I decided that that was like really toxic for my brain.
Okay, it sounds like they had a toxic style of parenting. I don't think I would ever suggest you cut out your family because they have a toxic style of parenting, but okay, go ahead. Unless they were like actually like super ultra abusive or something. Not to downplay anything you've been through, but
that's fair enough. I feel like I'm still trying to parse through my decision day by day. It's made a lot of things in my life incredibly complicated, but you know, I take it one day at a time.
Okay, well, good luck.
All right, thanks for the chat.
Yep, I love you, buddy. Be careful. Jesus. Opera Cat here for your 7th time this week. Nice. What's up?
How is it my 7th time? Explain to me, sir.
I don't know. I just see your name down there a lot. I feel like you've been up here a lot, but what do you want?
It's like my 3rd time. Chill.
3rd time. Nice.
I have a question. So, do you think piracy is a good way to, you know, keep media like sort of preserved or whatever?
Is piracy a good way to keep media preserved? What is the question? Yeah. How am I supposed to answer that?
Like, so recently, like HBO Max has been like deleting like a bunch of shows and stuff off the their service and whatnot, and a lot of these shows are now taken off. You can't buy like DVDs or anything of that sort. So like a lot of people have been saying that like piracy is the new way to keep like media preservation and whatnot.
Okay, so what answer could I possibly give you here? If you create more copies of something, does that make it easier to preserve? Isn't the answer that always going to be yes? How could I possibly answer no to that?
Well, gee, I don't know. Like, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. This is not the point of viewer Collins.
Well, I mean, it seems like the answer can only ever be yes. Is creating more copies of something a good way to make sure there are more copies of something to keep it preserved? Yeah, I get probably. Yeah, it seems like the answer would always be yes to that.
Jeez.
What? How else could I? What is the counter argument? What else could you say? No, piracy doesn't keep stuff preserved. Because
I didn't have an argument against it. I was just wondering what your thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, Jesus. Also, I didn't know Wicked Supreme became a 9/11 truther. That was a little strange.
Okay, you fucking autist. He's asking if it's justified. He's asking if this should like override the rights for copyright holders to fucking own their art or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
if this
I
should
know
just
that's
fall
what
into
he's
the hands
asking.
of
I'm
the
trying to get him to phrase the question in a less fucking stupid way. His actual question is probably something akin to like, do you think that the benefits of piracy in maintaining digital copies of media online, leave, right, is that going to outweigh the potential negatives of having people pirating stuff and then maybe reducing the overall demand for it? Sure, that's an interesting question. But to say like, do you think piracy makes more copies and is important? Like,
okay, I didn't word it that dumb. Okay, chill.
What? Right? Go back in the pod. How did you word it? Do you think piracy helps make more copies online to keep stuff preserved? Yeah, sure, it does. The answer is yes. If you've ever been to any private torrent site, they have like some of the best archiving of like any music shit ever. Way better than Spotify or YouTube Music. And arguably, a lot of that stuff wouldn't be on the internet, wouldn't be found if it wasn't for some of those like illegal private torrenting sites. Private torrenting sites are amazing for shit like that. But then, I mean, obviously, yeah, you've got to weigh that against the cons of pirating. But I don't think pirating has ever been like a significant hurdle for any music or media people, or at least I've never seen anything compelling saying so.
Okay.
Okay. You good?
Alright. Also, you have to admit, that Mama Max video was a banger.
Yeah, it was. It was banging.
Yeah.
And RTBA was like spending hours trying to keep us from it, so.
Yeah, he was gatekeeping the content.
Yeah, he was.
Like,
wanted to watch some Tucker Carlson shit.
Yeah, like Jesus Christ. And we got a new meme too. The damn go off sis shit. Yeah, oh man. New banger. Alright, well I'm leaving. Bye.
Bye. Oh my god, just die, please. What do you want?
Hi. So I'm the one who called in.
Yeah, I know who you are. You made a post on my subreddit and everything.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you came back yesterday. You were in a league game. Don't worry. I know everything about you. I know everything about all of my viewers.
That's actually really scary, and also kind of okay. Okay. So when I called it before, I was like, "Oh my god, I think I'm trans." But then actually I knew. But then I was kind of memeing, and then I was gonna like, "Oh, by the way, I started like a year ago," and I was like, "Okay, cool." But then it turned out it came off as whatever. But anyways, what I wanted to ask you is, just as far as like understanding how you think about things, why aren't you trans?
Aren't I trans? I don't know. I don't feel like I care one way or the other much at all about my gender shit.
So when you say you don't care, does that mean that like if you woke up and you were a woman, would you transition to being a man, or would you just stay as a woman?
I think I'd probably just stay as a woman.
Okay. Why don't maybe why don't you care isn't like this?
Because how can I possibly know why I don't care? I'm not sure. Maybe I would care. Maybe I'd wake up as a woman and I'd actually be super fucking bothered. I don't know. But it's just gender is just not the thing that I really think about that much in regards to like my identity. But I say that, but maybe if I change it, maybe I'd feel really bad about it. Who knows?
Okay. Have you ever like considered like the whole cross-dressing thing at least, or anything like that, or do you think that's not for you?
Bro, I barely care enough to dress as a man. Okay, I just wear sweatpants and a t-shirt all day. I have not considered the intricacies of women go through way more effort with their fucking clothing.
Yeah, but as far as like appearance or clothing or anything, like is there anything you do that's even like slightly feminine?
Not really. No, not that I can think of. I drink Soylent. Does that count? I have a girl's name, Destiny.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, and then in terms of personality, I know like personality can be both masculine and feminine, and all that stuff is fine. But then, do you think like if your position really was that you don't care at all, do you think it makes sense that you don't do anything even slightly feminine? Like, don't you think that that's a sign that you actually do have some attachment to, like, being male?
Maybe. I mean, there's like gender norms that I kind of adhere to in society, because if I don't, I'm gonna get a lot of weird looks, and I'd rather not deal with people looking at me weird. Like if I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear a dress today. Also, I think my guess is even if I was a woman, I'd probably end up being like a tomboy, because like men's clothing is just so much easier to deal with anyway. I'd probably just wear like shorts and a t-shirt all the time. That'd be my guess. But who knows? Who truly knows?
Okay. I gotta think if I had any other follow-up questions to this. It's always hard to come up with follow-up questions at the same time. Okay. Okay, you say you've had like ADHD problems and stuff like that, right? And because that's a big problem I've had for sure.
Maybe.
Are you able to like read like for an extended time? Like, have you kind of figured that out?
Depends on my interest in the topic. If it's something I'm interested in, yeah, I can read for a long time.
Do you think if you had like a course or something that you were taking, like even if you enjoy the topic but it was kind of dry and boring, do you think you can get to a point where you can like read the textbook?
Where I could or couldn't?
Where you could, or you could like dedicate the time to study.
If it's something I'm
just,
interested
like,
in, I can read a lot. Yeah.
Okay, but is it really interested in, or just like interested in the moment? Like, do you think you could extend, like you could hold that for like a 2 to 4 month period for a course?
Depend on how long I was interested in it for.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, can interest kind of be like kind of fleeting in a way? Like if you have an interest in, I mean, at least one of the problems I would have is like I would have an interest in the topic, and then yeah, I would do it. But then if the next day I'm more interested in like a video game or some random thing on YouTube, or if it's just like I don't want to put my brain into a state where I want to study or something, like, do you have any way that you've kind of overcome that, or is it just only if you're in that kind of hyper-focused state that you've kind of solved it?
I have no idea. I think usually I think if I'm interested in something, it's usually because there's an event going on. Like if there's like a debate coming up, or I've got like a topic that I'm talking about a lot, like it can hold my interest for quite a while. Like stuff related to mRNA vaccines or COVID-19 is something that's held my interest for, I guess, probably over a year, because like new conspiracies and everything keep popping up about it. So that's a topic that I've read quite a bit about and continue to, and probably will continue to for a while. But I mean, like other things might come up just for one debate, and then I don't really read much about them afterwards because I don't care much about them. It just kind of depends.
Okay. I guess just one other question, just randomly. Maybe I'll talk about it later. Maybe, I don't know. If you had two people you loved very much, and like they're in kind of completely different positions, and one of them was kind of in danger, would you betray another loved one to save the life of the other one?
It super depends on what you mean by betray, and it super depends on what you mean by save a life.
Okay, would you steal money from one loved one to give it to another one who was going to be murdered if they didn't have the money?
Probably, yeah. I think so. If it just comes down to one person losing money and the other person's actual life being saved, yeah, I think I probably would.
What if it was a lot of money, and what if it was people you care about significantly more? But you still care. You still love both of them.
At this point, I'm not going to be able to draw a hard rule here. These are like really personal questions. I would have to know like a situation, like an exact situation. Because I'm not going to say like, oh, I would spend, if I loved them 5 units of love, I would take $75,000 per unit of love from a person that I loved at unit 7 or something. Like, I don't know. I need like a situation.
Okay, what if so the money isn't necessarily consequential in that it's going to hurt. Okay, let's say it's like your family. Like, you would be stealing from like parents and siblings.
I need like a situation. I have no idea. I'm not sure. I need a situation at this point. I can't just like make hard rules for this.
Okay, so yeah, no. So I'm making this is the situation I'm specifically describing. So the people being stolen from her family, parents, brother, etc. Like all of them. Like it's like all a joint pot, and then the person.
My family has a shared bank account, and I'm going to go to the shared bank account. Why am I stealing from them?
Because there is someone going to kill a loved one of yours or mine.
Okay, so someone's going to kill my girlfriend if I don't steal from my family.
Not necessarily girlfriend, more like adopted sister.
Okay, and she's not part of the family to steal from?
No. No. Well, let's say you consider them part of your family, but it's not any kind of sexual thing. It's just like, you didn't realize the extent of all their problems, all this kind of stuff, and then... Anyway, okay, I know it's messed up. I'm going...
Are you in trouble? Are you in danger, my dude? What?
No, honestly, I was before, but that's a long story. But, so, okay, do you think it's a wrong thing to do that to your family? Like, are you supposed to let the other person die?
It would probably depend on the severity of both. Like, I think if another person was going to get beat up by somebody and you could steal your family's life savings to save them, that's probably not okay. But
okay, but what if the person's going to get killed, and then from your family, it's a lot of money. It's maybe about 20% of their net worth, and it's a significant amount, and they care about it significantly, but.
I can't. I need. I need like. It's such a weird situation. I can't even fathom of how to like. I just I don't know.
Okay. Do you want me to actually get it, or is it just too much to get into? Because...
If you want to give me a situation, I can think about it. But this is like such a bizarro. I don't even know how to conceive of like a general rule set for this. I have no idea.
Yeah. No. Okay. So parents are rich. Let's say they have hypothetically. I don't know. They have 10 million in the bank, whatever. And there is a adopted sister, whatever kind of thing like that, who needs money. Otherwise, they're going to be killed. Let's say they need $1 million, and the family is in no ways willing to give this $1 million. And my life or your life in this situation is not in any danger. The family's life is not in danger. It's only the one person's life is in danger. Do you think it's wrong to steal from the family in that case, if it's like 10%?
I'd probably do it, I guess.
Okay. How would you console the family in that case?
I don't know, dude. You're gonna have to give me like a specific. I need like I can't speak in generalities about something like this. This is like such a hyper specific situation. I can't.
What if that is this? What other details would you need?
Like, why is the other person's life in danger, and the only solution is to steal $1 million to save them? What possible scenario could they be in?
What if they like got in trouble with the wrong kind of people?
Then go to the police or the FBI.
What if they think that if they go to the police, they're going to get killed?
If they're not willing to help themselves, I'm like, who's to say that if they get the $1 million, it's not going to get worse? Then now the people feel like they can extort them for more money in the future.
What if it's not extortion? What if it's like they're entitled to it, and there is an actual dollar amount to it?
What do you mean entitled to it? If they got in fixed with the wrong type of people who's going to murder them and they don't pay them back, then that sounds like an illegal matter. So who's entitled becomes subject to debate.
It is illegal for sure, but it's illegal to a point where there's a limit.
Why wouldn't they just extort for more in the future?
I guess.
Or it depends also. It depends also on like how, like if the other person stole from them or something. I don't know. Well, now we're in a kind of a different scenario. If the loved one stole from them and now they owe them $1 million, well, I don't know if I would steal from my family. Would I steal from my family to right or wrong? If the other person is kind of like has earned their position, well, then I don't know if I would steal from my family. Maybe I'd help them like contact the police or something, but I don't know if I would deprive my family of like all their hard-earned money just because somebody else like got in with the wrong people and now their like life is fucked.
Yeah, I would say that's probably more accurate, kind of.
Oh well, then no. Well then fuck them.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, I think that's probably it for now. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, have fun.
Take care.
Be careful.
All right, thanks.
Oh, somebody's dying tonight. Jesus Christ. Ah. Say hi to JCS, everybody in chat, when we show up in the next vid. Why did they actually stop making vids? I can't believe that. Kaylin? Is that your name?
Thalen, yo, what's up? Wow, I got picked. That's amazing. How are you doing, man?
Doing great. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. Yo, so some questions. Have you ever been to Europe?
Yeah, once or twice.
Have you been to, I guess, only Sweden, right? Or have you been somewhere else?
What are you asking me? What state or country?
What do you mean?
What are you asking
Europe,
me? Just get to the next country. I've been to a lot of countries in Europe. What are you asking me?
I'm just asking, like, how many countries in Europe have you been to?
I don't know, a few.
All right. I'm just asking because I'm thinking about moving to the U.S. I just want to ask, like, if you have experience.
Yeah, I've been to Sweden. I've been to Denmark. I've been to the Netherlands. I've been to France, Germany, Poland, the UK.
Would you think it's a good idea to move to US as a European? Or
I don't know. Why the fuck do you want to move to the US? Depends.
I just feel like people are more open there. You know, they talk to strangers more, small talk more, and I think I kind of like that in Europe.
Where are you from? Hold on. I don't know what the fuck Europe is. Do you live in Norway? Tell me what country you live in.
I'm from Belgium. I'm half Belgian. I'm half Chinese. But yeah, in my country, people don't really talk to each other that much. Strangers. Usually people have friends in high school, and then they just have that sort of group. And I feel like in the U.S. it's easier to talk to strangers, I heard.
Yeah, you want to go to the U.S. to talk to people at coffee shops? This is what Reckful sounded like when he was manic. Is this your plan right now?
No, it's a simple question, man. Like, I feel like
people are more talkative in the United States, yes. But I don't know if I'd move to another country because the people are more talkative there.
I don't know. I feel like environment is pretty important, especially when it comes to being social with other people, I guess. Maybe that's just me.
Have you ever been to the US before?
Yeah, I've been to New York, and I didn't purchase travel insurance, so I got sick, very sick, and I couldn't go to the hospital. I mean, I did go, and I heard that the hospital bill is going to be very high. So I was in there, and I asked the lady, like, can you tell me how much this is going to cost? The lady is like, no, I can't tell you. So after I did all the registration, I just escaped. I literally just pulled my wristband, and I just escaped. Yeah, so that's my first impression of the US.
Okay.
But other than that, I feel like it's pretty good. It's pretty chill.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What were you sick with? You have COVID or something? Or?
No, it was just 1 month before the COVID hit. I don't know if it's COVID.
Oh my God, you might be patient zero. Like hold on. You said you were half Chinese. Where were you from in China? When was the last time you were there? I worked in a
fish market.
Wuhan. Okay.
Yeah, in the fish market in Wuhan. That's where
Gotcha.
That's where I'm from. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, at least you're honest about it.
No, I'm from Shanghai. I escaped when the COVID hit again this year. But anyways, man,
okay.
I like your editor a lot. He's like God level. I kind of want to ask if you're fine to talk about it. Like, how do you pay him? Like, do you pay him a commission? Do you pay him a percentage, or is it
he gets 40% of the channel's revenue?
40%. Wow. His name is August, right?
Yep.
He must be rolling in dough. Nice. Amazing. Amazing. Hey man, since I'm half Chinese, I want to ask like, like in my experience, like everything in China, they just move faster. Like usually when the CCP wants to do something, like they just do it. And sometimes it's like, sometimes some bad will come out of it. For example, the COVID shit. But like in most cases, I will argue that in China, I feel like it's better than the Western society. For example, if they want thieves to be gone, organized crime to be gone, and then it's all gone within 2 years. But like I feel like in Western society, it takes a long time to see progress. Like, what do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, there are pros and cons to democracy, right? One of the cons is that it's pretty slow.
Yeah, it's just too slow. Actually, I feel like.
Well, I mean, that's the gamble that you take with democracy. Systems move slower, but you have less risk of like having single party rule and having like no internet, or having your entire fucking cities being locked down because of the coronavirus and shit. Like, I mean, it's up to you to figure out.
Well, don't you feel like with democracy, you also have to like educate everybody, because everybody has a right to vote.
Yep.
And if you don't educate everybody on, right? Mm-hmm. I see. All right, man. Have a good stream. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go. Thank you.
Wait,
boy.
What do you do for work?
I'm a YouTuber.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, wait. You my chat, my YouTube chat.
Yeah.
Oh, you have like 800,000 subs, don't you?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh shit. Oh fuck. I would have been less mean to you if I knew you were popular. No, I'm just kidding.
It's alright, man. I'm gonna unsub anyways. I'm kidding.
Yeah, good. Jesus,
I still love you.
Hold on. You traveled as a huge YouTuber to the United States. You didn't get travel insurance as a European, which I'm pretty sure they always scream at you to do when you come to the United States. And now you don't know if you want to travel to the United States to live there.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, hold on. Now that I know a little bit more, I feel like one of your biggest drives to travel to the United States, aren't the taxes pretty high in Belgium?
Bro, you're right. It is extremely high. But I'm paying taxes in Taiwan because I actually do my work in Taiwan. I'm gonna set up a company there, so I'm gonna pay my taxes there.
How do they care at all that you're doing like YouTube stuff, or can you hold on? I'm sorry. I'm admittedly very ignorant on Chinese stuff. Can you access normal YouTube in? Oh no, Taiwan. You said. I'm sorry. You said you were from Shanghai.
No.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm actually from Shanghai, but like in Shanghai, I upload because we can use VPN.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like Surfshark. Well, what are you sponsored with? Surfshark? Yeah. Surfshark is what I use. It's very good.
Wow. Surfshark.deal/destiny if you want a discount.
Yeah, exactly. Very good.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're from Shanghai. You want to set your stuff up in Taiwan.
Yeah.
How does your family feel about that? Where's your family from?
My family, my mom is from China. My dad is from Belgium. They don't care. They don't really care.
Oh,
they're both of Belgian nationality. So.
Gotcha.
It's fine. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, American people are, I would say Americans are more friendly in general, but I feel like I have limited experience with this because I'm a fucking nerd. I don't go out and talk to people a ton. These are like the general things that I've heard from Melina and Rekful. Rekful really liked Amsterdam because he liked the culture of coffee shops there. He said he liked that people were so willing to like chat and be open in coffee shops, which I feel like you could find that in the US, but he really liked that. And then the second thing I heard is Melina says that if you're looking for friendly people, it is colder the farther north you go, literally, and it is warmer the farther south you go. So if you go to places like Italy and stuff, or in Southern Europe, the people tend to be much more friendly. If you're a woman, they're more sexually aggressive too, but they tend to be much more friendly, more warm, more open, more, like communicative than if you're like more northern. But I don't know how true that is in general, or if that's just something she figured out, but yeah.
Why did you move to Miami though? Like, what was the reason?
People in LA were really shitty and fake. Melina really wanted to be in a place that was more Eastern because of the time zone is better for her European viewers. And,
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And then she really likes tropical stuff. She's like a beach girl. Like she was living in New Zealand before I met her and everything. And then she really likes.
Does it get too hot or do you not go out? So it doesn't really matter.
I don't go out that much. It gets really hot here. The only plus is that there are obviously nice beaches to go to because you're in Miami, but it gets very, very, very hot and very, very, very humid. There's no weather in the world that's going to be nicer than like LA, San Diego. I don't think it's probably some of the best weather in the world. But
I see. All right, man. Thank you very much.
Have fun. Be careful, buddy.
All right, bye.
Fucking loser. Dark Bob, what do you want?
Okay, Destiny, I have a big problem.
Yeah. What?
I have started to hate women. I hate them. anytime a woman speaks, I want to slap them. Anytime they give an opinion, I want to mute them. How do I solve this?
Okay, you need.
This is real. It's within the last month. It's been happening.
Okay, there's 2 things that I can tell you. Okay. Number 1, find different women if you can.
Okay, young 20-year-old women suck ass.
Just keep looking. Go to the right departments or whatever you have to do. Okay, number 1. Number 2, this is something that I was actually blind to for a long time. There are oftentimes just as many really fucking stupid men, but you're not thinking about them in a romantic way, so you tend to view them a lot differently. I remember that I gave I did a video once, and I think somebody's even emailed me and linked this, like, do you not agree with this anymore? I gave a video once where I said it was bullshit that women are expected to have no hobbies and just sit there and look pretty, whereas men are supposed to have interests. And I feel like every time I'm out on like a fucking date with a random Tinder girl, like she has no interests or hobbies or anything. She feels like she's totally directionless, aimless in life. It's so fucking stupid. But I got a lot of feedback from female fans that emailed me, and then I started to pay more attention to this too, and I realized, actually, there's a fuck ton of men that are like this as well, but I'm not like thinking about them romantically, so I'm not selecting as hard for certain traits, and I just don't notice. So when I see a bunch of guys that are doing dumb shit, I just don't think about it. It's like, oh, they're just like dumb dudes or whatever. But when I think of women doing dumb shit, I'm like, that's because all women are dumb. So yeah, try to pay attention to men and notice how fucking stupid a lot of men are because they're out there. And then yeah, try to surround yourself with better women if you can. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Do you go to like college?
Yeah, I do.
Are you probably in like a computer STEM department or whatever?
Wow, you just read my whole life.
Yeah, so you got like 2 women in any of your classes,
yeah.
huh? Yeah.
Well,
okay,
yeah. Well, it's not even the talking to women. Like Tinder goes fine and all that. It's just they're so uninteresting, and maybe I just need to pay more attention.
Sure. Men are really uninterested. People in general are like pretty
that's true.
Yeah.
I think that's more so the fact. Like it's really like I'll talk to someone and they seem like they have no interest or like drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can be hard to find interesting people. I noticed that that was something that I constantly talked to Erin about. I was really curious about it because she worked for a private military contractor. She worked for Lockheed Martin, and she would talk to me, and she said that there are a lot of like really smart engineers and stuff that she works with, but all they know is their job, and they don't know anything peripheral to it, and that was it. And they were just like boring people that had no interest outside of like their specific line of work. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would have thought that engineers are like super interesting people that have tons of hobbies and drive to learn about all sorts of things in the world. But she's like, no, most of them are just boring fucks that know their one area and that's it. And I'm like, oh, crazy. But yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Quick question: have you read any of do you have an opinion on any of Malcolm Gladwell's like writings?
Yeah. I guess my problem is that like I feel like his engagement is usually kind of shallow with topics. Like he writes like in a very kind of poppy kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you think?
Do you think he's like a good way to like? So like, my parents are very conservative,
Mm-hmm.
so like I've grown up kind of pushing back on a lot of their ideals.
Mm-hmm.
But I also see both sides, and I feel like Malcolm Gladwell kind of, at least in certain parts of his literature and podcasts and stuff he does, it kind of helps, at least I've seen within my parents, helps them kind of see the other side, and it makes it seem not so radical. Does that make sense? So
I'm sorry.
I
made that. I have no idea who that is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. You did troll me. Okay.
My bad. What is he like a political commentator?
Well, you kind of got it on. Well, he's kind of like a sociology journalist / political commentator.
And he does like a podcast or?
He does a few podcasts. He's written some books that I think are really good. But
Mm-hmm.
he is like shallower in his like he kind of covers a broad topic, and I think says it in a good way. Okay. That's fine if you don't know.
As long as he's making him look at like other sides of the argument, that's probably good. So
no, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I love you. Be careful, bud.
Pepe wins.
True. What up, Danny Dan?
What is up?
It's boring.
What's going on?
Boring 9/11 conspiracies. 4 hours, you know.
Well, was it over with now or what?
I'm just taking a break. I am on hour 2 out of 5 for this fucking horrible video.
Wow.
Yeah. What have you been up to today?
You know, I think I have ADHD again.
Wow, cool. That's the buzzword of the week. Tell us about
No, but like,
Hello?
Can you not hear me?
Oh, hi. Yeah, your fiber internet must have just cut out. Go ahead.
I had ADHD really bad when I was younger.
I remember they wrote a whole new rule in Massachusetts just because of the way that they treated you in school. It was a crazy story, and that's a protocol they use to this day. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, the reason I know it's back is I can like hyper focus on something, and then like all of a sudden it's fucking 9 p.m. and that's what I did today. I swear to God, at lunchtime I was like, these fucking iguanas, man. Like, I need to find them in the trees, but they fucking blend in. And I'm like, okay, thermal camera. Okay. Probably not going to work very well, but maybe if we find the best balance. I've spent fucking 8 hours and it feels like 15 minutes, but I have done all of the thermal camera research.
Do thermal cameras work?
Camel. No. Camera. Yes, they do.
I thought aren't iguanas cold-blooded? Would a thermal camera
They are,
really...
but they're still going to be hotter than the surrounding things. Actually.
Interesting.
Yep. So I have found the best thermal camera for the money. Okay?
Okay.
So there's a few of them. But right now, the best one is the HTI 301.
Okay.
This is one of the ones that like clips into your fucking clips into your phone. I don't know if you've probably never looked into thermal cameras, and I get that. That's fine. Why would you?
Yep.
These things were stupid expensive for the longest
amount of time. Give me some price tags so I can understand what we're talking here.
Let's go back 10 years ago. For anything that looked decent, you're looking 10 to 20 grand.
Okay.
For a thermal camera.
Damn.
And like basically the only people who had those are like first responders and fucking
military
like maybe
losers.
Yeah, exactly. But now, look at the quality you can get. I'm gonna send you a video. This is some fucking top tier shit. I am gonna be scoping out iguanas with a fucking vengeance. Like, this is like quality unseen before in the history of iguana slaying.
Okay, how much does this cost?
I got this one for $600. Keep in mind that what you're seeing right here could be happening in complete pitch darkness, and you would still get the image that you see on your screen right now.
Yeah. Can it see iguanas?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just telling you, asked what I did today. That's what I did today.
Wow.
Is I went super autism on, I don't know. I just like, fucking, I put all the numbers in spreadsheets, figuring everything out, and then you come to the best cost analysis benefit. And that's where we landed on this device. And this is it. I've done the research for you. Just stop if you're looking and just go ahead and buy this. Don't even worry about it.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And you're going to use this to go hunt iguanas in your backyard. Why do you hate them so much?
Yes.
Do they actually cause property damage or anything?
Yeah, yes, they cause property damage because they burrow under shit, and they shit all over the place. So I hate them. I'm also looking at upgrading my the weapon that I use to attack them. Right now, I have a kind of a single shot. Like, you have to cock it after every time. You've seen it.
Yeah.
I'm upgrading my game, and I'm going with a fully automatic 4,000 round per minute. I'm not joking. 4,000 round per minute. 800 fucking BBs in the hopper. It's called a Drozd Blackbird. It's made out of Russia. It's modified here in the United States with a custom board with a high pressure 3000 tank. I am going to be fucking assassinating these motherfuckers out of the street. They're not going to know what hit them. And my neighbors, they're going to hear some things. That's fine. It's not loud like a gun, but it's like, and then like, a fucking iguana is going to be fucking just, you know what? I'll have to let you get in on this, Maybe I'll save one for you the next time you're over here.
Thank you. Okay. Damn.
God, it's so fun. These, man, they got a lot of power in this thing. You think BB gun, you don't think a lot of power. These ones go 1,000 FPS, okay? Which still, you're looking at about, around 10 foot-pounds of energy, that's enough. That will fucking cave in the dome piece of an iguana, no problemo.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you.
Yeah.
That one you showed me, that pump action, or the one that was just like air pumped or whatever. It's pretty pretty powerful.
Yeah, this new one, it kind of works off a scuba tank. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Damn. Wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything else?
So we got the thermal camera. We got the research on the or how we're upgrading our guns. We got that. I guess that's it for today.
For now.
For new news.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything interesting that you've learned in 9/11 that you want to quiz me on? Something you
No.
think I would have known?
I thought it was gonna be like disagreements of matter of fact, or whatever, but all it is just like, isn't it kind of weird that this happened and this happened? Like that's like the whole thing, so it's pretty disappointing. But
So what's the deal with Tower 7? Like what's going on there?
we haven't
like,
gotten to that part yet, but we'll get there.
I'm guessing that like some flying piece of debris landed there, but you know, it seems weird.
Well, it's
that
not
it
a
didn't.
flying piece of debris. That thing was like next to the fucking towers. Like there was a ton of shit smashing into that building. So, but yeah, we'll go over.
I hear there was a lot of important records in that building.
Oh yeah, were there?
Very convenient.
About the dancing Israelis, maybe?
Well, you know, I saw them coming and going right when this happened. I was, oh my god! Do you remember? There was a guy that used to come in here that got chased off that claimed to be in one of the buildings?
Oh yeah, pretty
Should
high
ask
in the
him.
buildings. He got really mad when people on stream joked about suicide bombing, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonder what happened to that dude.
Well, don't know. It's a mystery.
Okay. Well,
do you want to go back to what you're doing? Is that why you're being curt with me?
No, just my brain is scattered. I'm probably gonna go run or something and then come back later. Okay. Well, yeah, I love you,
All right.
man. Be careful.
All right, see ya.
Do you remember where you were when 9/11 happened? Pretty sure I was in my 5th or 7th grade classroom. I don't remember which one. I don't know however old I would have been, but okay. I love you. I'll be probably back in a bit, and we'll do this the last fucking another hour of this horrible fucking documentary. Christ. You would have been in 7th grade. Oh, well. And that's where I was.
Hello, Pappy.
I'll host Mr. Girl while I step out. I'll be back in a bit. Be careful, duders.
How the fuck do I sub to you on DGG?
Ask your mom. She's a tier 4.